Hello everybody and welcome back to the SCSL Season 4. We're a bit out of sorts here. We've had some technical difficulties, but we're getting into the round of 32 Group F. Don't worry, on the YouTube side of things, everything will be in order and all set up properly, but today we've got Hero, Paralyze, Speed, and Run, and we're just going to jump straight on into it because we are a little bit behind schedule. It's going to start out with Hero versus Paralyze, and we're going to go to Speed versus Run next. Got a great lineup, so let's get started. All right, jumping straight in. Got Paralyze over here in the bottom left. We got Hero in the top right. Hero, definitely top 2, top 3 Zerg players in the world, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. He's one of my favorite Zergs of all time as well, on top of that. When he's playing on form, it seems like he's almost potentially capable of rivaling Sulky for that #1 spot, if he can at least get a Zerg versus Zerg against him. That's one thing that Sulky's been dangerously avoiding, knowing that Hero came so close to beating him in a recent ASL finals, and certainly is capable of doing it again. So Sulky's been avoiding this guy like the plague. Meanwhile, though, Paralyze here in the bottom left going for a gateway expand. Not too surprised to see him go for a build like this. He's a StarCraft 2 guy, like Ruin. They've both been playing StarCraft 2 a lot in the past, and they made the switch over. I think Ruin made the switch over after finishing his little stint in the military. Not so sure about Paralyze, but Paralyze, I think, actually played back in the day a little bit on StarCraft 1, but I think he only had some success in StarCraft 2.
And Hero's gone for a 9-pool here. 9-pool with an extractor trick. It's kind of dangerous for a Protoss going gateway first. Cross map, though, it's going to have a lot of time to pull his zealots and get probes down there to help wall in. Probably put one on the ramp, one over by that pylon to try and keep himself safe until he can get that forge online. But he's gonna lose the probe immediately. Probe goes down right off the bat. He better turn the zealot around. That zealot better not be heading out on the map because he could be in a lot of trouble. He's actually sending it north. He's gonna go around these lings, it looks like.
Yeah, this is like crazy that he's going for a play like this. He's just barely avoiding the vision range of the Zerglings and the Overlord to the north while doing so, threading the needle with that. He must be setting up the forge and wall off with a probe and a zealot here to try and hold the line. The Hero's not even going to try and bust through, just wants to put some damage down onto that gateway right away. He's going to be well aware that there's a zealot out on the map. That's most likely going to run into his base in a few seconds. He's going to try and pressure the zealot now. Gets a pretty good surround on that. Takes it down to really low HP. Just 1 or 2 hits now to finish that off. Paralyze tries to shuffle it back out. Hero does pick it off. Nicely done by Hero. Going to get 2 Zerglings into the main base as well.
2 Zerglings in the main. This zealot can hide behind the mineral patches, but can't do much more than force, 4 lings out right now. Hero gonna continue to micro here in the main. Can he get any kills on these lings? So far, not being able to get anything here. Waiting for a bit of health to come back on those lings. Oh! Gets one, but does lose one of those lings. So the power in the main is quite a bit diminished. In fact, he will just run out. So Paralyze avoids disaster here. Only 1 probe going down. That's pretty good for going up against a 9-pool and sending your first zealot across the map.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad. This is pretty nice hold from Hero. I can understand wanting to pull the Zergling back and use it just for scouting, and also to come back to help defend against this follow-up zealot pressure that'll be coming his way. He wants to avoid making too many pairs of Zerglings, and he knows that the cross-map Radiant can get away with relying on that defender's advantage pretty significantly. Paralyze inversely, gonna be able to delay his cannon, get this nexus up. A nice crisp timing, and he went core before cannon here to slightly optimize his tech. Kind of making up for losing that probe and a little bit of lost mining time, having to pull probes off the line of block early on. So trying to stabilize his own build order against the early shenanigans of Hero getting some lings in.
Paralyze walking this fine line really elegantly so far. Carefully getting into a quick Stargate. Will he be able to get multiple Overlord kills with that? There are 2 Overlords near his main base, and I'm not sure that Hero can defend those. He's not finished that layer here just yet, and the Stargate is going to finish very soon. This is a bit of a mismatch in the timings here, I feel. Although I'm often off on this. This is something that I need to learn for my own plays. Really get that drilled in, the timings on the layer and the Corsair, when the Spire is going to come out, when the Corsair is going to be able to get damage. Dragoon here over at the ridge, going to push back that Overlord a little bit and just soften it up for the Corsair that's about to pop out so it can get a little more damage going.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a nice little player from Paralyze. He's not killed the Overlord, but he will make it much easier for the Corsair to finish that off. And with how late the Spire is, it's going to come down to whether or not he can hide these other Overlords. But he potentially could lose 2 here with how slightly delayed this Spire is. Have to see when the Corsair actually pops out. Pretty good surround on the Dragoon, though. Hero trying to punish this is one of the problems of going for this Dragoon players. Slightly less sell-up production, and can sometimes get that Dragoon surrounded if you're too aggro with it. You're going to add on a few pairs of Zerglings as he goes. Spire just about to finish up, so when all's said and done, he might get away with only losing 1 Overlord, but because of this other Overlord in the center of the board, trying to make its way diagonally to the base, the Dragoon and Zealots could help finish that off if they did push right now, but he's worried about a run-by from Hero. He's only got 1 single cannon, or sorry, 2 cannons now, sorry. So he could actually, if he wanted to, put a bit of pressure on with this Zealot Goon force, but he's still worried about a potential run-by from Hero, so he might still just barely get to this Overlord when all said and done.
Yeah, that second Corsair going to come and help out. Finish that off quickly. And he can come through for a scout. Got to be very careful with this, though. Don't want to be losing any of these initial Corsairs. Could be in a lot of trouble. Oh, he's going to go after these 2 Overlords, but he's got to react quickly as the Scourge come in. Indeed, he will do that, and should have an angle here to escape. Looks like he's got that escape vector, and Hero will not be able to cut these off. Oh, maybe he gets 1 connection here, but I don't think he'll get a kill on either of these Corsairs. Paralyze has got the escape vector.
He should just barely maybe get to the safety of the cannons. Yeah, just almost biting the dust at the last hurdle, but manages to clear it. Does get 1 connection with the suicide ability of that Scourge there, taking it down quite significantly low in HP, but eventually those shields regenerate. It's not too bad. So it's quite sizable amount of damage done to that Corsair. It's only got 80 shields and a lot more hull damage after those were depleted, so it'll be much easier to pick off later on by these Mutalisks in the air. But not too bad for Paralyze. Losing the Corsair is definitely a problem, but taking 1 Scourge hit, not really the end of the world.
No, it's going to be fine here. I wonder what the efficacy is of going for a shield battery in the main right now. Heal up those Corsairs, make sure they have full energy, but hold that thought. And the Lings making their way over to this natural. There's 2 cannons there and a probe ready to block, so Hero turns around. Here comes the Corsairs now. Some of them are injured, some of them are damaged. Not having that shield, and Scourge are going to come in now. Zealots are going to be pushed back. Zealot speed is online, so they can just run away. Spreading and splitting here. Pretty good play from Paralyze. Not going to lose too much for this.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like we could have a really normal macro game on our hands. I mean, there is still a possibility of an Ogre's gamer move here from Hero. You can put a lot of pressure on initially with this Muta Scourge flock. Let's see. Okay, there are lots of cannons being morphed in the mineral line, so maybe Paralyze can hold this. It's going to be close, so he dives in on top of the Mutas. Here comes a preemptive storm on some of those Scourge, taking out half of them. Another preemptive storm. Look at that storm! It took out all the Scourge! Really well done from Paralyze, and Hero suddenly in trouble. He's trying to compensate by killing one of these High Templars. They're trying to morph into an Archon in time. Don't get it. A little bit of a dance off there. there, and one of the High Templars is the victor. And in the world of StarCraft, turns out if your your competitor fails to dazzle you with some good moves, he's just eliminated, literally.
That was a really high-level move we saw there from Paralyze, casting Storm on the Scourge rather than targeting the mutas. For a long time, that was the main target of those Storms as the mutas were flying, and you try to hit the mutas to soften them up, but Protoss players have realized that hitting those Scourge, they die so quick. Like, within a second, they just pop immediately, and so getting rid of them, the Corsairs can handle everything else. Now, coming in towards this fourth base, Hero trying to grab this. He is going to have to cancel. Corsairs are not here to help out these Zealots. They're over here killing off a lot of Overlords, though, and the Zealots are going to be drug out and killed by the Hydra and Mutalisk Force. But will he become supply block? Looks like the supply block has already hit. I don't see any Scourge for Hero out here, and Paralyze could look for some more Overlords. Instead, he's just going to back away for now. Muta's heading over towards that third base of Paralyze. Going to try and delay that as much as they can, but the Corsairs are on their way back. Might be able to shut down these Mutas now.
It's an interesting gambit here from Paralyze, trying to get this third base up sneakily. A lot of these Mutalisks are bruised despite having a lot of them, so you can see a lot of them dying in short order, waiting for the Hydras to get in there with support, utilizing those Acid Spines. But now the Corsairs in just a count of 4 will need to be reliant on cannons being thrown up, as well as a preemptive storms protecting them. Not quite able to muster a strong air fleet from this position is Paralyzed, but kind of has done the job he set out to do. He's trying to get this third base online at a reasonable timing. Good blanket of a storm there, forcing those Hydras back, and Hero going to be relegated to taking his own fourth base. He's got a decision on his hands now. Do I pump out non-stop Hydra and kind of go semi-all in and try and kill this third base, or do I just transition into a Hive?
I kind of favor the Hive transition personally, but I've seen a lot of Zerg players recently going for these big clumps of mutas, just continuing on with that pressure and trying to shut down the Protoss player. Like that layer-based style is quite popular right now. We'll see if Hero wants to make that transition or not. So far, he's made a lot of mutas, and I only see one evolution chamber, no second and third, with a Queen's Nest on the way, so it may indeed just be that straight up layer play.
Yeah, I mean, it's been coined the phrase battle Zerg. We kind of see a lot of that in the past, and currently in the meta seems to be resurging in popularity, just basically relying purely on layer tech units. You can either dump your gas into lurkers or mutalisks, and this time it seems to be Muta Hydra really strong at sniping these High Templars and allowing the Hydras to do the heavy lifting after the splash damage has been thwarted. Trying to dive in now, gets one of the Templars. Pretty good preemptive storm from Paralyze, but the High Templars are falling in short order. There's a pretty sizable amount of Dragoons to buffer against these Hydras, but he needs like 1 or 2 more storms to make it work, so he needs to tuck tail and run. Beautiful target firing by Hero, taking out those critical utility units, reducing the amount of splash damage available to him, and now Hero going to be putting a little bit of pressure on, and he has 4 bases saturated right now, so Hero has a pretty sizable macro engine behind this.
In fact, he's ahead in supply now, really cranking out those layer-based units. He could transition now, but I think he's still just going to keep the pedal to the floor, continue to slam out Hydras, and try to win with a follow-up attack. Managed to save a couple of Corsairs here, Paralyze, keeping at least a couple of those alive will be helpful in shutting down the mutas a little later on. Some of them have been bruised and just need a little bit more splash damage to take them out. These Templar are going to be priority 1 for Hero, trying to dive in one more time and snipe them down. Paralyze got to hide them back behind the army and really try to keep them safe. They're so necessary for taking out these huge clumps of Hydras.
Yeah, I mean, Hero's job from now on will either be, just trying to trade well with the Protoss, see if he can get in here and get a snipe on that third. But if he can just stop this fourth going up, or at least force a fight at the fourth, that would be okay too. You see, Paralyze has to mobilize his army to the center of the board to cover this, and it's spotted by the overlord of Hero. Hero might do a massive counter attack at the third base while this army's out of position trying to cover that newly forged fourth, and beautiful snipes on these high Templars. Pretty good preemptive storms to try and prevent maximum damage. He has lost 3 out of 4 Templars though. Total, all 4 Templars going down before the mutas dry up, and now a massive clump of Hydras trying to make their way across this tight little bridge to try and cripple Paralyze. So far, the geometry of the map helping pay dividends and letting these Dragoons trade well, while some backup Templars make their way from the rally point up here to buffer against this. I don't think Hero's got enough to completely dismantle this third base from Paralyze, but he at least indirectly got the fourth cancelled.
Yeah, he managed to force that cancel and kills a lot of Dragoons here as well. That Templar was never able to throw down a storm. Really kind of like a death zone there, that bridge going into the third base, but without the storms, he's able to make that trade work pretty far in his favor. Hero continuing to back up now. Has he remade a bunch of mutas behind this? I don't see any here, and now the storms are really starting to do their work. Zealots coming to the front to buffer, and Paralyze takes a pretty good fight here. These are the fights that Hero really can't afford to take. He needs to get in there and snipe those Templar again in order to stand toe-to-toe with the Protoss army.
Yeah, I'm curious from Hero, like, is he just going to keep this up and just keep, you know, saying come on and slam and trying to force the Protoss to come out to the center of the board to engage him to cover the fourth? And he's diving in yet again with the mutas, targeting down these high Templars in pretty good fashion. There's not much to screen against these Mutalisks now. He's just trying to run by with some of his Hydras towards the rally point. Maybe to try and snipe off some high Templars that are left over there ready to reinforce. There is a small contingency of Protoss here to try and abuse. Pretty good storm on those. Dragoons backing up that rally point from the west now. The fourth base hasn't yet been contested. So Paralyze, if he somehow gets away with this and can defend, he's in a good spot, but Hero's not letting up at all. He's saying, come on and slam, welcome to my jam. He's gonna try and get the cancel on this third base at all costs, or at least force trades out of Paralyze and start doing some 1-2 punch combos. Now going to be counterattacking the 6 o'clock fourth base while drawing attention to the third. He does get a cancel on that fourth.
Oh wow, was that a kill on the fourth? It's a scrap left behind.
Warping in.
Must have been a very late cancel there, right as it was finishing up. Some cannons being thrown down here at the third, but Paralyze can barely afford all this. He's going to be on 1 base here shortly, and Hero will be sitting on 4 for a little bit longer. That's the benefit of being Zerg and having just a few less workers than your opponent. You're not going to mine through all of these bases quite as quickly, so he's going to sit on 4 base while Paralyze desperately tries to get his own 4th online. We're going to have a perfect defense here back at home because a massive wave of Zerg is coming across the map. Here it comes. Storm on top of his own units here, trying to save those Templar, but all the Templar are going down. Great connections there with the Mutalisks, and this is all that Hero needed. Now he can charge forward with the Hydras, and there's almost nothing Paralyze can do at this point. Sending forward a few more Zealots, but Mutas are going to come up here to continue to add on that damage, and there's just no splash to speak of. There's the Templar from behind coming out of the rally point. They get sniped up as well. Those Mutas making quick work of that army.
He's cancelled the fourth again. Look at this play from Hero. It's really exceptional. He knows that the win condition right now is force the Protoss to be dried up in his main and natural. Around 17-18 minutes is when that starts to occur. So now it's 1 base Protoss versus 4 base Zerg. Like you were saying, takes a little bit longer for the Zerg to dry up in their main and natural with slightly less worker saturation. And he is now starting to dry up, but he's got this small window where he's got a slightly wider production capability than Paralyze does. Even when this main and natural does dry up, he can just keep to leapfrogging his own expansion efforts while denying the 4th from going up, and will eventually win a battle of attrition against Paralyze here. Paralyze is unable to get that 4th base.
Paralyze is stuck right now. cannot move forward, cannot take that extra base. He's waiting for more Templar, but they're coming out so slowly. Now, the gases will still remain for a little bit longer, and even when they are dried up, they will still return a little bit of gas. So the Templar number in this army is going to grow kind of dramatically here, and Hero does not get to keep mining here forever. He is going to run out of money eventually, and it's already started to happen. That main base is drying up. Now he's on 3 bases of mineral mining, and the natural and third will... Go ahead.
I was just going to say that depleted gases do manage to let you build one high Templar every minute for those 2 depleted gases, but Hero's coming in yet again, target firing down these high Templars, but it is a big conga line, so if there was enough storms, Paralyze could make this work. I don't think there's enough reservoir of energy to utilize against this. He's trying to micro a few of the Dragoons back. Definitely like their stalkers from StarCraft 2, but it's not going to be sufficient. Hero is breaking through and crippling the army of Paralyze while getting a fresh 5th base to replenish his mined out main. GG is called. What a well executed win condition from Hero, showing his caliber.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of panic there. Bit of panic from Paralyze as everything was going on there, as the Templar were getting sniped. He didn't really hold too many storms at the end there. He kind of cast a couple of bad storms. You really have to wait until all the Hydras are engaging. Then you drop a storm on the side, and it forces some of the Hydras back so that you can take a uneven fight, but just wasn't quite able to do that. Panicked after the Mutas sniped the majority of those High Templar, and now, guys, we're going to be hopping into our next game. Who's it going to be? Speed versus Ruin. That's coming up here soon. What do you think about this matchup here, Xun?
Ooh, I'm kind of excited. I don't think it's necessarily Speed's best matchup or anything, but I'm just excited to see where these two line up. Ruin is a StarCraft 2 guy. You know, he did his military service, and he came back to being a StarCraft 1 streamer, and he's had quite some success in the StarCraft 1 scene. I have no idea how he's going to line up with Speed. I'm actually not... I think Protoss versus Terran is, traditionally speaking, Ruin's worst matchup. So yeah, this will be an interesting one for sure. It'll be, yeah, like really high intense task switching ability versus someone not quite playing their forte. I imagine this couldn't go too well for Ruin, but he could surprise us.
Yeah, I'm betting on my boy Speed. This guy is crazy good, crazy fast.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to this match, guys. Let's hop right on into the action. Gonna jump in here with Speed versus Ruin. There we go. Speed up in the top left-hand corner, Ruin down here in the bottom right. It begins our PvT. The first one of the night anyway. We'll see if Speed manages to get through first here. I really want to see Speed versus Hero, actually. That would be a great match.
I mean, yeah, Speed is really good in turn versus Protoss is actually his weakest matchup, which is kind of what I was trying to allude to just a moment ago, that this is both of their worst matchups respectively. So it might be still an even well-fought match from both sides, because they're kind of playing a little bit out of their element. Have to wait and see how these two can perform. I'd like to quickly point out that Speed's like a really old school player. He's just never had success. Like, he was playing way back in WCG Korea 2009, but he got knocked out by Fantasy right in the first round. 0-2. No surprise there. Fantasy was an absolute god tier Terran versus Terran player that could even go toe-to-toe with Flash and had a pretty crazy rivalry with him, even 3-0ing him at one point, I believe.
An OG in the scene, but coming into his own in the present day. Has had a little bit of struggles on stage, you know, not quite hitting the beats that we see from him in some of these online tournaments, but right now he's in his element. He's sitting at home comfortably in his gaming chair, the one that he plays every day on the ladder and practices vigorously. with his keyboard, mouse, and his whole setup. Should be able to perform at his absolute best here today, and I'm really looking forward to it.
And that gamer chair probably, you know, adds a bit more MMR to his skill level. You know how important that gamer chair is, Sam.
Absolutely. Don't go anywhere without it. Pack it in my bag, take it with me everywhere I go. No, for sure.
Right, this is a very greedy Nexus though from Ruin. Like he threw that down at like 1890 in supply. Look, he's going complete rangeless and goonless expand here. It's basically essentially a Nexus first without skipping tech. Kind of makes you safe against an FD push still, because you can get some units out. Because it's cross map, I would like to point out, if this was a close position, like say if Speed was in bottom left and he did a strong FD push, he actually could do a lot of damage to Ruin with how late this range is going to be. But getting away with murder a teeny tiny bit here, the fact that it's cross spawns will make it a lot more challenging for Speed to punish something like a rangeless expand with a very strong fake double build. So I imagine this is going to pay off well for Ruin.
I think Ruin's correctly assumed this is going to be a long rush distance. It's the longest rush distance I think we have in our map pool.
Yes,
cross map Radion, so he will have some leeway there. Ooh, Starport coming up for Speed. He's sensing some greed here, and maybe can get a punish going if Ruin is trying to get away with something.
Oh, certainly this could work out really well for Speed, trying to sneak in some vultures. Now, Ruin could thwart this if he gets 2 Dragoons in his main and natural. He can easily smack down something like a vulture drop play, or rely on him figuring this out and kind of, you know, playing safe and not being too aggressive. We'll have to wait and see how he lines up with that. Speed, though, I mean, his CC's not too late. I mean, this is all pretty good timings for him, but he will be semi-reliant on getting a lot of damage done with this initial vulture drop to try and even the power scales, especially in regards to the infrastructure and the economic prowess. So hopefully Speed can be successful, or at least somewhat successful with this vulture drop. But if Ruin does just like turtle up tightly, 2 Dragoons in his main, 2 Dragoons in his natural, it'd be very difficult for Speed to make up the deficit.
Good moves here by Ruin so far, clearing out the mines and keeping the vulture away from his third base critically. That way he'll be able to take it unhindered a little bit later on. But this forward position from Ruin could really go to bite him here. Could really hurt him as that dropship comes out. So many vultures have been made, and Speed hasn't revealed that at all because there's not really much pressure from Ruin. He hasn't been forced to show that, and so, you know, there could be tanks back at home, there could be siege mode. He has no idea what's Speed's game plan behind this, and he's going to be completely surprised when there's a bunch of vultures flying into his base.
He wants a crisply timed third base, so he can't be aggressive to be safe against this vulture pressure, potentially. And you were right about this being the longest rush distance cross map. It's 38 seconds with a worker ramp to ramp because of how they are orientated. For example, the ramps on Polestar are more pointed towards the center, whereas this ramp in the top left, for example, pointing more towards the north of the map, and this ramp in the bottom right pointing more to the south of the map. So yeah, about as far as you can get in terms of rush distances from pretty much any map in the map pool we had for a long time. Here's the 2 Dragoons in the mineral line, though. Exactly what Ruin needs to do to mitigate totals. Can the mine go off? If that mine detonates, that's going to be huge. It doesn't go. That's like 8 probes. Oh my gosh, that was so much damage. He glitched out the mine just for a second, but not enough to stop the detonation going up. Not enough target firing. He's getting some more additional probe damage in the main base as well. More mines are being laid. Can we see a repeat? Not quite. He does shuffle those Dragoons away, but that mine connection was crazy.
Yeah, that mine connection was huge. And look at how quickly Speed is able to throw down mines. Did you even see that first mine come out in the mineral line there in the main?
Yeah.
Crazy quick.
Yeah. He's got the advanced Terran mechanics of using shift hold with your mine connection. You can actually lay 3 mines down in very quick succession as long as you're shift holding on each additional mine being laid. And you can also use that shift hold to make the vulture fire instantly as soon as the mine has been deployed to help shave off the shields of the Dragoon so that you can do more hull damage with the actual mine connection itself. Just really expert execution from Speed, really showing his caliber and also why he's called Speed, because he's macroing back at home while doing this really high intense micro stuff.
Well, that was a lot of damage from that one single mine, but was it enough? Ruin got a very greedy third base online, and his overall mineral saturation doesn't look too worse for wear. He's just barely ahead in supply, but he's going to start to explode quickly up in that metric here as those extra gateways come online, and he can start to come out on the map, clear all these mines, and potentially go for some counter harassment as well. Here comes another drop from Speed. That dropship was still alive after the drop, after the fact, and so he's going to come back in for another.
Here we go, flying into the natural third right now. Probably just, yeah, 2 vultures laid there. Oh, a tank, actually. That's interesting. Not too orthodox here to do a tank drop this early on. He's going to unsiege and go back into the main. Does take out one of those Dragoons, as well as forcing lost mining time. Dragoons on the intercept path, but not quite in time to stop this. There is actually a Reaver currently slugging it out nearby. Can he get some major connections on these pros? The arc-light shot cannon, 4 kills so far on that tank, now 7. This is starting to rack up. Beautiful target, right? That's another 3 probes for a total of 10 with that siege tank. Really well executed drop harass from Speed, and he's still denying mining at the third. This guy is on a different level.
Yeah, he's getting so much done with this drop now. Definitely putting himself in a great spot. I wasn't so sure after that first drop, but this follow-up gets an insane amount of damage, and we're going to go straight into a push as well. A lot of players who go for that drop style will try to utilize the starport to get into a quick science facility and get +2 going really early on, but doesn't seem like that's what's in the cards here for Speed. He's just going to make another dropship possibly, and then you know, combine an attack with another drop going forward.
I was going to say, I don't actually think he's going to push. I think he might be thinking about taking his third. I think he's done enough damage where he doesn't need to push. Now, he could have gone for a 7-9 tank push here. He actually still might, but he doesn't necessarily need to. He could just continue this drop harass and take a third behind it. We'll have to wait and see what his style orientates towards, because both lines of play are viable here. You could go for a massive push timing and try and cripple the Protoss even more, but it's also totally viable just to sit back with these siege tanks, use this 5 factory to take your third base, and continue the drop harass on the other side of the map. Keep applying pressure to your opponent while growing in StarCraft 101.
All right, so going for a little bit more of an orthodox follow-up here. Speed looks like he will be getting that third CC online and continuing to get some damage here over at the third base, dropping into the main as well. Dude, where are all the units from Ruin? This is getting a little bit sad. He is losing so much to just this endless drop harassment that Speed has been leveraging against him. It looks like Speed's actually going to push out. There's a big engagement in the middle of the map right now. Speed is just going to take this fight, and everything unsiege, pushing across the map. I don't know if Ruin can stop this, and even if he does, his economy is in shambles behind this. Oh my goodness, he lost the Reaver.
Oh no, I mean, there's no way of slowing this down. Yeah, he just has to tap out. I was just literally thinking to myself, like, how does Ruin even deal with this? Because he can't. And Ruin agrees it's just time to tap out. That did not go his way at all. Speed completely dismantled him and made him look a little bit silly here. Turns out, you know, StarCraft 2 doesn't really teach you to control individual units on multiple fronts, and that's one of Speed's fortes. So Ruin's going to have to dig deep and completely make the full mental switch over to StarCraft 1 and not think about his StarCraft 2 days, because yeah, that line of thinking is going to get him into a lot of trouble against some of these pros.
I mean, Ruin's been putting out some good games lately. I don't want to underestimate him, but I don't think he's on Speed's level, man. Speed is crazy good right now. He's been putting up awesome games against all the top players, and he's going to go on to face off against Hero. Speaking of top players, Hero versus Speed. That's the match that I was hoping for. So we're going to get right into it here, guys. Just need to make a couple changes here to the bracket or to the...
I mean, I'm so excited that we get the Speed versus Hero lineup, though, because, I mean, Speed is really good in TVZ. And, well, so is Hero, obviously. But I think that's why we're going to have a really strong match between those two characters. And Speed won't have to worry about, you know, on-stage nerves or what have you, like he might be in contention with in this recent ASL run. But, yeah, I think we could have a really strong best of 3 between these two players. This is Speed's definitely best matchup and might be giving Hero a run for his money.
All right, let's jump straight in. We're all good and ready. We've got Speed over here at the bottom right. Hero in the top left cross map situation for the beginning of this best of 3. Couldn't ask for more. Very excited to see what kind of game Speed wants to go for and how is he going to control the pace in this ZVT.
Yeah, I mean, and this isn't Hero's forte. I mean, Hero's a godlike Zerg versus Protoss player. He's very respectable in Zerg versus Terran and Zerg versus Protoss, but you know, he doesn't blow that matchup out of the water. There's some of these Zergs where they're versus Terran specialists, but the usual way of thinking is most Zergs are really good in ZVP and not so good in ZVT. And Hero, you know, even though he's such a good player, is kind of one of those Zergs. There are obviously always players that break the mold. For example, Mong, he's really good in versus Protoss instead of versus Zerg. But traditionally speaking, it is, you know, Zerg's better than Terran. Sorry, Terran's better than Zerg, Zerg's better than Protoss, and Protoss better than Terran in terms of the triangle of balance. But there are always exceptions to that rule. Today, though, we have very orthodox players where, you know, they're very good in their respective expected lineups, and Speed might have a small advantage for that reason.
I think I saw a Reddit post about that one time. Maybe it was a YouTube comment. A lot of people believe that for sure, that it goes around like a rock, paper, scissors. It's not quite that simple, but things are quite difficult here for the Zerg. There's a lot of opportunities for Terran to take big advantages and break open the Zerg player in the mid game, and that's what Speed's real forte is getting in there with drops and multi-pronged attacks to just pull a player apart as they're switching into that hive play, and they can actually start to get their feet underneath them. That's what I'd be looking for here. Oh, taking a couple of pot shots at that Marine. Barely slips away with just 6 HP. In fact, getting attacked by the SCV. Oh my goodness, but you know what? He's going to draw the Marine over here to the right-hand side, and the Lings are coming straight in.
And that Marine is 30 HP because of the 2 spines connections from that drone. Suddenly Speed in a little bit of trouble. He's going to try and intercept that Marine from behind with the follow-up 2 Lings. Targets down one of the SCVs. Tries to get us around on the second Marine on the high ground. Doesn't manage to get the safety. Does take it out. Suddenly now more additional SCVs going down for Speed. That's potentially 3 SCV kills as well as 3 Marine kills. This has really paid off dividends. Doesn't quite get the additional SCV kill to make the icing on the cake complete, but honestly, Hero looking like a bit of a baker with this 9-pool gas trick early game and getting definitely good compensation. Considering it's cross map with a 9-pool without Speed, this is probably the best you could hope for a Zerg.
9-pool gas trick both games versus Protoss and versus Terran, making it work here, getting some good damage going, and oh, this drone almost goes down. Oh, he gets the moving shot there. Speed really wants some return damage here if he can find it. Oh, the SCV is a little bit stuck and it almost goes down, but Lings are going to actually finish that off. It does go down. Ooh, that's a little bit rough for Speed. Losing that scouting SCV means he can't really move out with these Marines. This is kind of a... this is a weird thing for him to do right now, moving this far forward with the Marines. He might be just looking to catch a couple of Lings that are walking across the map, but Hero should be able to turn that in time. Yeah, he does turn that in time. The Marines weren't that clumped up. And Speed, this is crazy from him going across the map like this without an SCV spotting. What's popping out of those eggs? He could just get completely overwhelmed.
Oh, it is definitely crazy. I mean, Lair starts at like roughly, let's say 3 minutes. It takes you 20 seconds to mine an additional 100 gas, and then a minute for the Ling speed. So speed could be finished at this point in the game. So yeah, I mean, now the speed kicks in, and these Marines could have been dead in the water had Hero been more aggressive and made additional pairs of Zerglings. So speed kind of taking a little bit of a gamble and kind of getting away with it, forces potentially more Lings being made back at home. But I don't think Hero blinked twice, actually. I think it's still just 4 Zerglings with speed to put on a little bit of potential threat potential for speed to worry about. So he won't be so confident in doing a very early 5-minute timing, and instead will just sit back and build up some more additional barracks. And I mean, Hero's getting away with murder right now. Like, he's got no Sunkens back at home, no nothing.
Yeah, speed's really thrown off here by the early game. You can tell he's just barely starting his additional barracks, and he doesn't have anything really. I didn't see an engineering bay. Did you see an engineering bay with +1 started? Because that it kind of looks like that build, but it feels like he just didn't have the money for that with all the SCVs that went down early.
I think he's building it now. I think he's only just now building his engineering bay. I think it's just about to finish. I think it just finished now, the engineering bay.
And so with that, I mean, he just doesn't really have a timing, that 5-minute timing, and he doesn't have a timing for the +1 either. So yeah, there it is. The engineering bay is not working right now. It's not upgrading. So speed is in a bit of a pickle here. He doesn't really have a point of power to try and fight back against Hero. Hero going to come in with this Mutalist clump and look to start shaving down this Marine number. Can bring up the Lings as well as these Mutas. This initial group going into the main base. Going to go after a turret here. Actually picks off an SCV first. Just the one turret there, not quite enough to hold back Hero, but Hero not really committing too heavily to these Mutas. He can just sit here on 5 and go into a bunch more drones.
Yeah, he usually does do that kind of style. It seems this time around he's going to go up to 7 and then maybe go into a few rounds of drones. It's very common though for Zergs to try and get up to 7 or 8 Mutalisks so they can come in here and start one-shotting these SCVs. If you do kill like 5 or 6 SCVs, it puts you in a comfortable mid-game position. Hero though, he's already gotten away with not making any Sunkens or additional Lings really, so already feeling pretty comfortable about the game state. These turrets were very lately timed, but it won't matter too much when all's said and done because Hero didn't try and pull the trigger and punish that with his trickle of mutas, trying to optimize his own economy back at home. So when all's said and done, this will look like a more traditional Terran versus Zerg game, even though the upgrades will be slightly delayed here for speed, so probably doesn't have as much timing or push potential as he would like to.
Hero hasn't really been trading with the Marines, but this is the 4th stim that he's forced out of the entire group. And so he's trading without trading. He's trading just by darting in here and forcing the stim and lowering that medic energy. Speed will be making this transition. Very nice, swift transition here from Speed, but Hero will be making a quick transition as well. He's been pumping out drones, and he's going to have those tech buildings online here in a moment.
Yeah, this is looking pretty good for Hero, unless this Bioball can somehow mobilize across the map. Like, he did make extra medics. Like, he had 4 medics early, usually only make like 3. And he's got a 5th medic here at the rally point. So he's actually kind of compensating for the amount of stims he's having to rely on. So that's a total of 6 medics. I mean, he could make this work against Hero if he gets this ball bigger and bigger. Eventually, the Mutaflock will not be able to challenge it so easily, as long as Speed has the execution required to get his buyer across the map. Hero knows that he could be in a bit of trouble if he allows this Bioball to get too big, so he's going to now start to force trades, even if they are stimmed. Just shave off a little bit off the top like a barber here. Get a few kills when he can, and try and stop this death ball from reaching a critical mass.
Bit of a rare mistake there in the Mutalist Micro, taking some damage without really dishing anything back. Swapping out the injured Mutalist here, getting a full healthy ball of Mutas to the front. Speed hasn't tried anything like sneaking off a pair of Marines to go and harass that third base. Anything like that would have been detected by Hero with the Overlord just to the north of this position. So he hasn't been trying it just yet. This Muta Ball is getting pretty darn big here, Xun. I thought he'd be a little bit more committed to the transition, but Hero has built a lot of stuff to try and shut down this bio ball. He is looking for a kill as the bio starts to finally move forward so that he can safely transition after the fact.
Yeah, I think he wants Speed to think that he's focusing on the transition, but if Speed's clever, he'll notice there's 1 or 2 drones missing in the main. And if he scans the third, he'll also see, like, you know, only like 2 drones mining minerals. That should tip him off that this has been predominantly Mutalist production. As long as he's keeping a close eye on the drone count, he will be able to identify this factor. And like we were talking about the medic count, he's got a lot of potential just to keep stimming and going. Now Hero be semi-reliant on these lurkers that are just now starting to hatch out to make sure he can hold the line. Even a Valkyrie coming out for the 10-minute push timing. He could get a lot of damage up, but this whole position lurker could wreck his day. He finally enables and starts ripping through the Terran bio with those subterranean spines. Valkyrie's trying to get value by chasing down the Mutalist block. They can now get free shot down though by those Mutalists without the Marine support, and they do both fall in short order. And Hero suddenly in an extremely commanding position.
That was awesome. What an excellent play. You never expect the lurkers to be right there in the middle between the main and the natural and the third. Just way out in the middle. Totally unexpected location, and it takes Speed for a ride here. Hero shuts down that bio ball with ease and now can switch into this big transition. Could even try to push across the map, bring the lurkers to the front and start to contain Speed.
I mean, I'm not sure, but if you guys want ice cream, let me know, because the ice cream truck just arrived. I'm so sorry if that's deafening for you guys, but
it's quite loud.
Pretty tasty. I'll let you talk for a second.
All right, I will take over here for a moment while the ice cream truck passes. We got a big concave of lurkers at the front now, trying to come out with these Valkyries. He needs to push things back a little bit. Cannot allow these to get any closer, otherwise he will just be completely jammed up in this natural while a defiler is being made and sent across the map. First vessel is out now, but the lurkers are going to come forward, running forward, guns down one lurker. This is exactly what he needs to do to slow things down and potentially hold this push, but that's a lot of lurkers here, Xun. So many making their way forward now.
I mean, this is why Valkyries are sometimes just bad. If you don't do a lot of damage with that 10-minute push timing, suddenly you don't have enough irradiates to hold off against this. Here comes the dive. Scourge at the ready to start pouncing on these air units as well. Doesn't quite get the vessel snipes he needs, but it's not going to matter. This is just too much Zerg to handle. And the Defiler Mound is now finished with a Defiler on the way in, like, say, 30 to 60 seconds or something. And Hero just needs to hold this contain and prevent the Terran from ever getting out of his base. He needs siege tanks at least. He's not going to be able to muster it. And GG is called. Hero with a very commanding game number 1 against Speed.
Yikes. That was extremely well done by Hero. That's not an easy thing to pull off for sure. Especially against someone the quality of Speed. Catching him unawares like that and then finishing him off with just a straight up lurker push. Man, Hero is on another level. Maybe Speed a little bit outclassed here today. We'll see though. Give him a moment. Let him cook. We're jumping into game number 2. We got Speed in the top left, Hero over here in the center right. Talked a lot about positioning on this map, and here Speed is over in the top left. Why don't you talk a little bit about it, Xun?
Yeah, the top left is the second worst position for Terran due to the gas being wide of the minerals, so you need a wider turret coverage to zone out those Mutalisk forces, and they can kind of get behind the minerals and exploit the ramp a little bit as well. But bottom left is the absolute worst for Terran. Even though the gas is tighter to the CC and minerals, that dead zone pocket where you want to put your tech buildings as Terran is so exploitable. So Speed kind of getting second best here. Not the worst, not the best possible scenario for him. Hero definitely adept enough in this matchup to potentially still exploit the fact that this gas is so much wider from the rest of his base layout that it'd be really tough to cover everything with turrets.
We might see a very quick Valkyrie build or something like that out of Speed on this map. Can be quite strong. I mean, he might be a little scared to do that after what happened to him last game, but definitely needs to shake that one off, play his A game here if he wants to take down Hero. Hero opening with the 12 hatchery now. Confident after getting that early game damage last game with the 9 pool. Is ready to go into a macro game, and Speed throwing down that gas. Let's see what he decides to go for here. Could be any number of things. There's so many different branches that the Terran player can take with a build like this, but it's up to Hero to figure out what's coming here and counter it effectively.
I mean, this looks like it might be some kind of really fast mech play. You could go for 2 racks Academy on 1 base. That's also possible. Hero's optimizing for lair timing, so he took the gas and the pool at the same time, utilizing the animation delay of how long it takes for the drone to actually build the gas, that he squeezes out the minerals for both at the same time to get your lair just a few seconds quicker than possible. It's kind of an optimization that was discovered a couple of years ago to squeeze out every little drop of juice out of that orange and get the fastest possible tech timing for that spire.
So one thing about this position here is that Hero's not going to be able to fly the Overlord in to see the gas. And Speed can completely prevent him from seeing exactly what the build is here. He's got 1 Marine in the main base. He's going to send it out now that the SCV has the scouting information. He knows what his opponent's gone for. Let's see what he follows up with. It could be, for example, like a Speed Vulture play. He could go 2-port Wraith after this. He could do any number of things. We're just waiting with bated breath here. What is Speed going to pull out in this second game of the series?
I mean, he just threw down a lot of buildings in the main base. I'm so curious to see what they are going to be. Okay, it is going to be that 2-port Wraith saying, I mean, he's going to try and utilize this Vulture to deny scouting. Hero won't be so confident that he can dart all the way in with this Overlord to confirm that scout. He knows he would potentially just lose that Overlord to the Marines initially. So he's going to deny the Overlord getting in there with the first Marine, and now the Vulture's job is to force a Sunken and deny any Zerglings from coming into scout as well.
We'll see if Heroes opted to go for Burrow with this as well. Burrow can be an awesome counter to this sort of mech or a teched out play from Terran. That 1 base style, you're not going to be able to afford an Academy and a add-on Comsat with all of this stuff that you're doing right now. So there's really no way for him to get vision if they are underground. Now going to pull the drones away from this mineral line, going in behind the minerals here is kind of a sneaky play. That's going to slow down Hero a little bit, but as Hydras pop out, we'll be able to clear this up. And seeing Hydras coming forward already, Speed's got to be a little bit panicked here. He knows that a counterattack could be imminent. He will have to get a bunker early on to make sure that he doesn't just die to some Hydra counter pressure.
Yeah, this is kind of the new school way of dealing with this teched out play from Terran is you don't even get range most of the time. It's literally just getting Speed Hydras and pressuring the front and kind of forcing the Wraiths to play defensively initially to try and slow down the Zerg and then go in to kill some Overlords and drones and what have you. But until this bunker is up and can be repaired, the Terran is not safe. So you can see some of these Wraiths kind of helping out with the defense a little bit. And this is buying precious seconds for Hero to stabilize back at home. He's not actually necessarily trying to kill Speed, even though there is a window to punish Terran and still, force a repair and then pick off SCVs by committing with a lot of Speed Hydras. Hero's doing the sort of fake Hydra variant where he's not actually planning on doing that. He's just forcing Speed to respect that potential. Will buy him a little bit of precious time here. Now he's got enough Speed Hydras out to help defend his own mineral line back at home.
The fly through here, he could go right into the main, not going to opt for that though. Just one drone kill. Dude, that's so many Hydras. He sees the number. Is he gonna respond correctly here? He's got to pull a ton of SCVs to the front. You have to pull so many SCVs here. Ooh, Wraiths flying right over top of these Hydras. They were on a move command there. They're all making their way forward. Does he have Cloak? Does he have Cloak with this? If he's got Cloak, he can really help out quite a bit at that bunker as the Hydras come forward. How many? Oh, 2 bunkers here is pretty sweet.
Yeah,
and with all of the SCVs, he should be able to hold this.
Yeah, but the hero's job is just to snipe SCVs here. He doesn't want to kill Speed. He just wants to force the SCVs off the line and then target down the SCVs and then back out again. Really clinically well done there from Hero. He kind of double bluffed Speed in this game. Like, he made it seem like that's what he was doing, and then kind of was like, Psych, I'm not actually going to do that. I'm coming back home, see? And then Speed was like, oh, okay, I'm pretty chill. I can harass my Wraith safely now. And then Hero was like, double Psych, I'm actually going to go for it anyway and kill all your SCVs. So now Hero in a pretty commanding position. Speed needs compensation. He's picked up 2 Overlord kills and has supply blocked Hero temporarily. With 7 Wraiths, he's easily going to start one-shotting down these drones. He only needs 5 to accomplish that. So we'll easily be able to put a lot of pressure onto Hero now and force these Hydras to stay pinned back.
Is it going to get Cloak? He's doing a lot of good. There it is. Okay, he is getting Cloak.
He should, yeah.
He's doing a lot of good damage there. 2 Overlords and 3 drones just like that, making up a lot of that deficit after losing the SCVs there in the natural. Has a tank now as well. Cannot add this CC just yet, though. And Hero still has a lot of threat on the map with all these Hydras. Could suddenly arrive at his natural, and Speed is just looking around for some more kills for now. It looks like he will have that Cloak coming online. As he flies in, he's going to have a lot of energy for this. Going after some Overlords here. The Hydras are going to have a hard time rotating through these buildings in order to get on top of these Wraiths, and he's getting a lot of damage so far. Xun does have to be very careful with these paper planes. They go down super fast if he ever engages with the Hydras, but as long as he skirts around the outside and looks for more Overlords, he could get even more damage here. Another Overlord going down, and there's only 1 left in that main mineral line, so it's very dangerous for Hero right now. If he loses that, then the Cloak Wraiths can just go to town on the drones.
He's just gone up to 10 Wraiths total. He's almost at the number where he can start one-shotting Hydras. Does need to be careful not to lose any of these paper planes, like you were saying. He hasn't yet even built one of these CC yet, but as you can see, he's almost one-shotting these Hydras now, and the Gemini missiles also 2-shotting the Overlords in the air. So I mean, Hero's in a bit of trouble if he doesn't micro perfectly. Speed inversely, he's on a knife's edge as well. Like, he has to play almost flawlessly not to just straight up die to Hero. Hero's had enough, and he says, right, I'm gonna turn the tables on you. You're the one that's gonna have to defend now, buddy. And this is a crazy amount of Hydras, so the 2 bunkers could fall without the Wraiths intercepting and supporting them. So now Speed is kind of going to try and come in for a supply block attempt and then run these Wraiths home potentially to defend that. Remember, he's just killing SCVs. This might be a mistake from Speed. If Hero targets down both of these tanks and the bunkers, the Wraiths will not be anywhere close to helping out. This is a big miscalculation from Speed. I can't believe he didn't pull these Wraiths home quicker. He needs the Wraiths to help defend against this, and he didn't think that he did. That's a major miscalculation from Speed.
Yeah, not pulling the SCVs to the bunker as well is kind of unforgivable here. Hero is going to push right into the main, kill an absolute ton of SCVs, even forcing the lift here back at home. Speed's killed every drone on Hero's side of the map, by the way. Every single one. And so maybe there's a hope here for Speed. He's going to fight with some SCVs, and he's also going to bring the Wraiths back home soon with their Cloak. Gonna fly away here. He's got 500 minerals to make a CC, even if his CC goes down. I think he had a tank there in the corner as well. Might still be alive with siege mode. I'm not sure, but he's actually going to go back to the main base of Hero with his Wraiths and go ahead and kill even more stuff in there. Yeah, there's like no money left. Another Wraith pops out, and I mean, there's Overlord's speed, but all Speed needs to do is just kill off the Overlords, and eventually he will win this game. This is a crazy one, Xun.
Oh, it is really crazy. He has 4 Overlords in total. He just needs to somehow get them to safety. Like, he needs to, you know, meet these Overlords together with the Hydra force. He's got a few Hydras defending the other 2 Overlords in his natural. He's trying to get 1 Overlord out onto the map. He needs to be careful that this Overlord in the middle doesn't get found by Speed. Speed's using the last remnants of his economy to finish repairing up those SCVs, and he's taking a insurance policy out and building a CC down here. This is a real wild one. The fact that he kept so many Overlords alive is potentially the thing that will kill Speed in this game, but he can 2-shot down these last remaining Overlords and potentially get a checkmate move here on Hero. I think Hero's mistake is he doesn't have many Hydras defending these last 2 Overlords in his natural and the last remnants of his own economy. He's got a few drones mining, but that will not be long for this world. He's currently microing Wraiths off screen right now against the Overlords and Hydras at the natural expansion. Hero doesn't need this many Hydras out on the map anymore. So Speed trying to take advantage of this small window of opportunity to come in here and kill these last remaining remnants of Zerg that are mining. Seems like Hero doing a pretty good job of preventing critical damage right away, and he has enough money to remake a drone. But like I said, he didn't pull back any Hydras, so eventually those 2 Overlords will go down for free just as the Hydra reinforcements are starting to arrive.
Yeah, underestimated a little bit the Wraith number that was left over for Speed, and thought that whatever 5 Hydras that was clumped around that drone was going to be enough to just hold everything. And so Speed takes advantage. He finds a way in there, kills the last drone. You're no longer mining. He can make 1 more drone, guys. 1. So he's being very careful with it. He finally starts a drone. There is a command center floating down now over to this corner. He's going to go ahead and start to mine down in bottom right. This Overlord, he can't really send an Overlord out on the map. Oh, he is sending an Overlord over on the left-hand side. That's a kind of a mistake, I gotta feel here for Hero. He's got 1 Overlord, guys. He can't make another drone. He's gonna have to make an Overlord before he can make a drone.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait. Oh, wait, he's not supply blocked yet.
Yeah, he's got 2 Overlords, and 1 of them is out on the map. Doesn't get found. It is kind of crazy that he's trying to scout for this expansion from Speed. Speed's actually trying to hide the fact that he even has a command center right now. He's floating it to the dead space. That's his last building. Just want to point that out. StarCraft, even though most of these guys GG out way before it becomes relevant, it is still a game which is built on the rule set that once you lose all your buildings, you get eliminated. So Speed is kind of putting all of his eggs into the Wraith basket now and wants to float this command center to safety and force Hero to have to make something like a Mutalisk to checkmate him. So with these 5 Wraiths microing, he's hoping to snipe these Overlords in the sky with a 3 volley and then try and checkmate Hero that way, knowing that it's very unlikely he can afford to make an additional Overlord. But Hero really tightening up in his main base, completely surrounding these 2 Overlords like they're gold dust, which is definitely correct.
Yeah, this is wild shit what we're watching right now. He is going to slide around the outside. He sees 3 drones and he taps out. No way. Speed leaves this game.
Wow.
I'm shocked. I really thought that he was going to land the CC and try to start mining. He had more SCVs than there were drones, so
yeah,
a little bit crazy that he gives up there. Anyway, Hero goes through first.
I think he has to give up there. I think Hero outscales him too much. He's got more hatcheries, more lava. Overall, he'll definitely outproduce him. And the fact that Speed has nothing to defend against the Hydras besides those Wraiths. So as soon as Hero starts being able to produce additional Overlords and what have you, you can keep a few Hydras back to defend and send the rest to pressure the CC. There's just no way Speed can make that work unless Hero makes a major blunder.
I think it would have been interesting if he had thrown down his extra CC at one of those bases. Maybe try to get a little mining going there instead of just floating around kind of aimlessly. Like, why even build a CC if you're not going to try to mine? That seems a little bit interesting to me. But anyway, He was relying completely on that Wraith pack, getting the last couple of drones. I mean, crazy that it came down to one drone, guys. One drone from Hero there. And he manages to start replenishing. That's a wild game. That's a 1 in a million right there.
Oh yeah, definitely a bizarre game. I think it would have been better for Speed if he just supply blocked Hero, come back and defend with the Wraiths, and once he's pulled the SCVs to repair, held the line, he's actually survived, and he does outscale Hero in that situation, and he should still have enough window to punish with the Wraiths after the Hydras have all dried up from that attack, and would have still done a lot of damage to the drones of Hero, just a bit more delayed. Unfortunately, though, wanted to go for a bit of a base trade scenario and didn't micro well back at home. We're going to be going into the tiebreaker. Sorry, the Speed will be going down into the finals match to either face off against Paralyze or Ruin, which is coming up next.
Here it is. Paralyze versus Ruin. PvP of the night. Ruin over here in the top right, Paralyze bottom right. I think both of these guys kind of evenly matched, deserving of a round of 16 spot. They've both been working very hard, but who is better in this PvP matchup? That's what we're about to find out. The best of 3 here. I'm favoring Ruin a little bit, but I don't know. What are your thoughts here, Xun?
It is his best matchup. Ruin is definitely really good in PvP compared to some of his other matchups. So, yeah, I mean, probably the same. I have no idea who will win, but yeah, I'd probably be thinking Ruin just because it is way more of his favorable matchups compared to some of his other ones. He's like 55.7 against Protoss and only 44% against Terran. So yeah, pretty sizable difference in understanding this matchup. So hopefully he can make it work against Paralyze.
Well, both players mirrored builds so far. We're both not the foremost experts on PvP, so we're gonna do our best here. It's been a while since I've casted any PvP there, Xun. How about you?
I do a little bit in BSL. Obviously not the KCM because you never get mirrors in the KCM, but yeah, I occasionally get some PvP, TVT, and TVZ from my BSL casts. Bombastic Star League. Doing one of those later on today as well. Kind of double dipping and casting, sometimes doing the mornings and evenings. Can be a little bit intense, but definitely got a lot of love for the game, so more than happy to do my community service.
Looks like Paralyze hanging out in the mineral line here, thinking about possibly throwing down a Manor Pylon. It's become less common as of late. It's not really as popular as it used to be. It used to be the case that players were always taking that opportunity to throw down the Manor Pylon, but it seems like those opportunities are starting to dry up as players get better at blocking.
Yeah, a slightly faster Zealot here from Paralyze, but Ruin, more or less mirrored builds from him. Is throwing down the Robo though, whereas we've got a crisp range timing from Paralyze, so Paralyze could try and punish this with something like a 3-gate. Doesn't necessarily mean he will go for something like that, might still just get his own Robo after range, but Ruin trying to get a bit of a teched out advantage by getting a very fastly timed robotics to try and squeeze out that Reaver as early as possible here. And that might pay off for him unless Paralyze does go for something like a 3-gate.
Rangeless Robo. It's a little bit greedy. We'll see how Ruin wants to follow this up. Getting that very quick Reaver out, though, it could spell disaster for Paralyze, especially if he sends that straight across the map. Try to get in there and get some harassment damage going while sitting back at home on his ramp, or just here in the natural. Paralyze throws down his own Robo, but it's far behind this Robo, and I think he may in fact be going for that very quick robotics support bay afterwards as well. So Let's see what Ruin can do with this. He's going to have a little bit of a power spike coming up.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially going to be mirrored builds here. It's just a slightly different order of things. Like, we got, you know, slightly faster range here for Paralyze, which means that the observatory was faster for Ruin, and as a result, also the support bay. So slight advantage for Ruin going forward. Although if the Paralyze plays perfectly and takes the role of defender, it won't matter too much of the rush distances. It kind of still equalizes somewhat here. Usually one player takes the role of aggressor and the other defender in this matchup, depending on how they want to tech out and how they want to go about their expansion timings. Usually you're very timid about taking your first expansion here in this Protoss versus Protoss mirror build. It's not like the other mirrored builds where expansions are somewhat normal timing still. Picking up that probe snipe. Now that he knows there's no potential of this being scouted, he's happy to throw down that Nexus, and with his own observer out early, he can also deny the observer or Paralyze getting in and spotting things, and we'll also be able to get a bit of an information lead.
Interesting. Just gonna slug it out down the ramp here with the Reaver. I thought that he might, with that rangeless Robo, try to get into, you know, skip the observatory, go directly into Reaver and try to put some damage on, but he's playing kind of a defensive middle of the road style rather than a hyper aggressive way of playing.
Usually you don't send the Reaver across the map until you've got the shuttle speed in this matchup. It's very uncommon to send a slow shuttle with a Reaver into harass. That's a very old school Protoss versus Protoss mechanic. People do not go for that anymore. It's far more common just to use the Reaver defensively, get that Graviton speed upgrade, and then eventually they can, you know, put on the harassment with that speed shuttle, giving it a lot more survivability. And as you can see here from Ruin, he wants to deny the scouting from Paralyze. That's why he's got these little 4 Dragoon hit squad with this observer, trying to catch the observer of Paralyze. Paralyze has a slightly stronger infantry force to leverage against that, so he's now going to kind of siphon off that observer all the way to the right side of the map to try and squeeze it in for some confirmation on the exact timings of Ruin, who's enjoying a slightly faster expansion timing currently.
Yeah, what you're saying there makes sense. Also with the largesse of this main base, flying in with the slow shuttle, probably you're not going to be flying out. Those Dragoons are definitely going to be able to track that down. Not something I think about very often being a Zerg player, but interesting that Ruin has been able to get this Reaver online a little bit earlier, allowing him to get this Nexus out quicker, and he's playing a very tactical game so far with the Observer sniping, looking for that out on the map very actively. Looking for that. It looks like he finally finds it here. Is he going to be able to gun that down, or is he going to get baited into this army? Looks like he backs away just in the nick of time. Will fall back to this choke here. Paralyzed not wanting to take a bad fight, backs away in turn, and there's 2 Reavers on the side of Ruin, I think, now with a 1 Reaver maybe for Paralyze here in the shuttle. A little bit of an advantage possibly for Ruin right now, and it's all going to come down to those Dragoon and Reaver kind of chaotic fights that we so often see in this matchup. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the splash damage of those Scarabs is crazy. If you can get the target fires off on those, as well as while you're microing your own Dragoons to snipe down. Here's all. That's a nice pickup. Doesn't quite kill the Dragoon, but it's on very low HP with the splash damage of that Scarab. And this is pretty good pressure. He's probably going to kill that Dragoon now and then retreat back. It does take a little bit of time, but the Gravitic drive upgrade for those shuttles kicking in, now they've both got a lot more mobility available to them, so both players can start to try and outmaneuver one another. Paralyze playing it safe, has got 2 Dragoons waiting in the natural to prevent critical damage from occurring for free, while trying to leverage his own forces out into the center of the board. Though Ruin definitely taking the role of aggressor here, putting a lot of pressure onto Paralyze. Now he's got these 2 artillery units right in his face, taking pot shots at these Dragoons, kind of baiting him into reacting to this, while his Dragoons shuffle around to the right-hand side, checking the 3rd base, making sure there's no greed behind this from Paralyze, and sees the good news that he's not only lined up with a very similar build order, but Still enjoying a pretty comfortable position is Ruin.
Yeah, Ruin's doing a really good job the way he's moving his Reavers. He wanted to get some damage in that natural while Paralyze was busy fighting the army over here, but wasn't quite able to find that. Paralyze reacting quickly and bringing those Dragoons back. Really solid play from him as well. Ruin now just controlling this choke point, daring Paralyze to try and come out here. Paralyze doesn't really need to come out, and he could actually go across the map with some, or with the Reaver of his own, but that's why Ruin already has these Dragoons in the main ready to intercept that. Some really good back and forth here between these two. They're both reading each other's moves and thinking ahead in this game state.
The play for Paralyze is to take the expansion. He just can't do it yet because, you know, it's 400 minerals. You do have to cut a lot to make it happen. So he's going to instead, you know, focus on just, you know, getting his own production as maximized as possible, throwing down these additional gateways. He's taking out this spotter pylon over at the third base, and now is set up to try and make it harder and harder for Paralyze to take this natural third. He knows one of the ways for Paralyze to make this a more comfortable position is taking that third base. He's now going to threaten the idea of shuttles going into the main base. He just wants to keep Paralyze pinned back and not try and outmaneuver him by wrapping around on the left-hand side with his army and pinning Ruin's own army in that third base pocket. So really high-level understanding of this maneuver warfare from Ruin. It's going to pull back his army to safety, while the Reavers still threaten the idea of counter damage going into the main base, but he doesn't actually want to commit to anything like that. He's just slowing down Paralyze expansion timing and keeping these units pinned back for as long as possible, or maybe thinking about lining up his own third base.
One, I believe, shuttle on the right-hand side, maybe going up for Paralyze, trying to harass this third base that's about to come online. He scouts that, sees it. No probes over at that location just yet, and Dragoons are already here to try to defend. Ruin taking on the role of defender now as he gets this third base online, and Paralyze thinking about coming out here, but he starts his own third, and so we're going to go into a kind of an interesting game here. Protoss versus Protoss late game is quite chaotic with storms going down, storm drops happening all over the place as well. I think whoever goes into storm first is going to have a pretty sizable advantage, but at the same time, during that transition point, you're going to be a little bit smaller on the overall army and might get bowled over.
Yeah, that's the main issue here. Storm is superior to Reavers, but Reavers give you value in the now. So as soon as they do make the transition, loses the shuttle for free. Oh no, Paralyze, you're in trouble now, buddy. I mean, that's got to be tilting. He even sees those Dragoons and a cannon in the natural, so no compensation in the way of harass to follow that up. Oh, please don't tell me you lose that shuttle as well. There's even a spotter observer there. I mean, this is rough for Paralyze. His third base is slower. He's lost a lot of his utility with the shuttle and Reavers going down. And Ruin can just kind of sit back and macro to his heart's content. The pressure is now on Paralyze to make something happen. Even though he's behind in the power curve of the game, he does still now feel threatened and needs to try and find some compensation some way, somehow.
Yeah, I don't think he can push into 4 Reavers right now. Might be a good idea for Paralyze. I mean, he feels tilted. He seems tilted. He's got 1,000 minerals in the bank. He's got to hit that macro around. I feel like he's exasperated after that loss. Things have been going back and forth so cleanly here, and he's the first one to make a mistake, and that's kind of how Broodwar is sometimes. It's not necessarily the one who plays better, it's the one who makes the least mistakes, and so far Rune's made less mistakes than Paralyze. That's a fact.
That's one of the ways this is like chess still, even though it is more like poker overall as a game. It does have some similarities to chess, where you are essentially playing against yourself and avoiding any blunders. And if you do make a blunder, your opponent is going to snatch that up off the board and say thank you for that positional advantage. Another speed shuttle harassing around the third base location of Paralyze, seeing if we get anything done. Could we going into maybe there's Dark Templar in the natural, picking up drone probe kills while there's another drop in the main base. Paralyzed in disarray, definitely tilted after losing that shuttle for free, and suddenly is starting to fall apart against some pretty basic harass from Ruin. Definitely think this guy is way more adept in this mirror matchup. Does take out that shuttle eventually in the natural, but I mean the damage has already been done. He's lost so much mining time, a few probes of these Dark Templars, and this is psychological damage as well, not just actual physical damage of losing units and mining time, but actual getting inside your own head and making it harder for you to calibrate and calculate what you actually need to do in the coming phases.
It's also pretty clear that Ruin has that Templar and Storm transition well underway here. He's going to have that online in just a few moments, and Paralyze stuffed all the way back into his natural. Kind of a defensive position here as more shuttles come in to that third base. We're missing it right now, but there's some sort of drop going down there. Maybe some sort of a storm drop. Paralyze pulling back his probes there. It's actually Reavers, it looks like, in that third base that's killing a lot of stuff over there, and we're finally going to get a shot of that. Ooh. Let's pick off a shuttle there. But I think Ruin got some pretty sizable damage off screen a moment ago.
Oh yeah, and he's got Storm critically, so now he's in full swing. I mean, Paralyze is playing catch up in every regard. He's behind on economy, his tech, his army composition, everything. Even his psychological welfare has probably taken a pretty sizable hit. Now, with these Storms, you can see why it's going to be so good to go for these abilities. Finally, Paralyze has his own Templars, but they're under the Storm of Ruin right now. And you can see the guy who goes Storm first, as long as he doesn't just straight up die and take damage, is in a really good position. Finally, Paralyze's own Storm research finishes off, and we'll be able to start to fight back against this. But Ruin enjoying a 30 supply lead with the potential of taking a fourth, whereas there's no potential of taking a fourth for Paralyze yet. Big Reaver counterattack at the natural third of Ruin, trying to do some major compensation to make up for the deficits that he's currently dealing with. These Scarabs ripping through those cannons, trying to maybe even target this Nexus down a little bit, but eventually he should be able to push back these units away and doesn't take too much damage. Even catching one of those shuttles on the exit, it's a pretty big deal. Ruin just playing out of his mind in this and showing why it's his forte.
That's wild. 5 cannons at the third is a big commitment from Ruin, but it absolutely pays off, slowing down this damage. Oh, Storm goes down. Can he get one shot? Oh my gosh. Oh, just barely not getting it there. Dude, that was so many probes.
Yeah, it's 4 seconds for the Scarab to dud out like that. So as long as you pull your workers back quickly and there's some buildings to block, you can get lucky and not lose anything. A little bit of micro there from Paralyze. Still might find some connections on those probes. Not quite so far. Here comes a massive counterattack from Ruin, blanketing those Dragoons with Sonic Storm. It's a pretty good concave also for Paralyze though, so he's going to bully back those units and force them out. But the writing's still on the wall for Paralyze. There is no potential to secure a 4th base, and there is for Ruin. He hasn't yet pulled the trigger on that because he doesn't need to, but now that he's maxed out and can't really attack into Paralyze unless it's just for skirmishing purposes, he might want to take that Nexus now at the 12 o'clock.
So Paralyze has stopped Ruin from mining this third for quite some time. He's even going to get some storms going here. Might have a follow-up as this probe transfer comes through. Can he actually get one more? No, going to have to back away. Paralyze is going to try to come out. He's way behind in supply, but he's going to try and push forward here. Oh, some pretty good storms getting blanketed down. Good dodging overall from Paralyze, but oh, these extra storms landing on that front line are just eviscerating the army, and some zealots come forward here for Paralyze, starting to push things back. Ruin losing quite a bit, but he's still 50 supply ahead. Crazy the level of deficit that Paralyze is in despite fighting back.
I mean, eventually they're going to both go down to 1 base economy yet again. So when all's said and done, Ruin's in the commanding position. That's another beautiful storm. He can choose to keep trading like this and leverage his army advantage. Or just drop 400 minerals and taking that fourth base. I think he'll do that now. Yeah, the Nexus just now started at the 12 o'clock. There's a really good timing for it. He's trading so well. There's probably less probes for Paralyze, so the army supply is probably slightly more even than it looks, but it's still pretty big deficit for Paralyze to try and make up. Did a good storm onto that Reaver and takes it out, but there's so much meat on the bone for him to chew through still. And I think that even with Ruin not fully reinforcing this, he's starting to break through now Archon's pretty critical late game units in this matchup. Very difficult to deal with. Zealots have less and less value as the time ticks by. They get eaten alive by those scarabs and the sonic shockwaves of those Archons, so it's predominantly High Templars and Dragoons doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah, the Dragoon count is so low. The backbone of the army has been removed here for Paralyze. He's gonna be caught. Oh, some probes transferring over to this third. This is the point where you're gonna be transferring most of your probes to the third base as the main and natural mine out, and so it becomes so valuable to get any sort of harassment on that base. The saturation is just astronomical. So getting a couple of storms there, ruining the economy of Paralyze. Now diving in towards this natural. I'm gonna look for some more damage here. The probe saturation pretty high right here. That's some pretty good damage from this Reaver as the probes transfer over to that fourth. Still, it's a high mountain here to climb to come back. Another great storm here, dealing a lot of damage to that probe line. Paralyze has hardly any probes remaining.
I mean, so many probes were harmed in the making of this film, saying it's so crazy how many probes have fallen on both sides. But when the dust is settled, Ruin, definitely like his namesake, going to be doing the maximum ruining in this game. And it's Paralyze that's currently struggling to move. He's got a few harassing units out on the map trying to make up that deficit again and again, but it's never quite amounting to a sufficient threshold in this game, and eventually he will be bled dry. This natural expansion's about to become mined out in the next minute or so for Paralyze, and he won't be able to secure a fourth base without trading really well against Ruin, who, as long as he doesn't make any blunders, is going to be enjoying a comfortable lead now that there's 12 o'clock, can get a probe transfer underway and start mining efficiently.
Paralyze has been doing a good job holding that back, preventing that third base from mining for a good long time, but that time is just about over here. He's going to lose 2 Templar, only able to throw down a couple of storms. He loses the Reaver as well.
Yeah.
That was his last tool on the map to deal any damage to Ruin, and so now Ruin can focus his attention on breaking through this natural. And Paralyze, I mean, he doesn't even need to break through the natural, really just sit out here and wait for Paralyze to make the move, but with the big supply lead, maybe just diving in is going to be the right call. Let's see if Ruin wants to go in or not.
Yeah, I mean, he can. It's just, it is a way of throwing the game, so you have to be careful when you pull the trigger on that. He's doing a good kill box on this army of Paralyzers trying to break out. Good blanketing of storms. Has the superior count of Archons as well to both tank and soak up those phase disruption shots, as well as dishing out quite a lot of splash damage that's continual. But actually, Paralyze somehow, some way is out trading Ruin. I'm kind of speechless that somehow that fight went Paralyze's way, saying I don't even know what to say about that. Like, that's definitely a botched blunder from Ruin in this game, and certainly one of the ways you can come back, especially in these mirror matchups, is being a little bit too keen on ramming it down. And with that defender's advantage paying off for Ruin, suddenly in a pretty okay spot. He's still got a bit of a deficit to make up. Takes out the Observer. That's definitely a start of a comeback here for Paralyze, but he has to find a way of churning out 400 minerals for a Nexus at the 6 o'clock. So Ruin is still in a sizable lead, but he does have a superior count of probes. So with the supplies being this close, Paralyze might have an even or slightly better army composition.
Do you think that was the Reaver making the difference there? The Reaver was getting some good shots off, and he wasn't targeting it. It kind of made a a little bit of that extra splash. This is really the only X factor that Ruin had. Oh, excuse me, Paralyze. Paralyze running back right now. He's got to defend these probes. This is basically all the probes he has left right now, all over here at this third base. Some storms going down on the Templar as they try to come up here. This is some great trading for Ruin, throwing down those storms on the advancing Templar, killing off a lot of those and preventing the storms from going down on the side of Paralyze. This army will be trapped though and killed. However, Paralyze is down to 55 supply. He is so close to death in this game. 90, over 100 supply now for Ruin, and there's still no fourth base here for Paralyze.
He can't even afford a Nexus. Like, he has to completely cut all unit production to have a hope. Only 3 probes mining at this natural third. I mean, the writing is on all. We see a counterattack here from Paralyze, desperate to get something done, but I imagine he might tap out here once this army dries up, realizing, yeah, there's the tap out. I don't blame him for that. It's a pretty good GG timing. Ruin, the superior Protoss versus Protoss player, taking down game number 1, but we just see some comeback potential there from Paralyze. Maybe he can equalize and take this series to the distance.
Yeah, that was a pretty incredible PvP. A lot of respect shown on both sides in the early game, jockeying for position. Just once one mistake is made, Ruin starts to run away with things. Hopefully, Paralyze can recover from that earlier error and pull things together to bring us to a third game. Let's see it. Game number 2 now between Paralyze and Ruin on Dominator. We've got Paralyze center right, Ruin bottom left.
Okay, I mean, Dominator is one of my favorite maps, say, and so I'm definitely happy we get this in the rotation. I'm hoping it kind of stays around in the map pool for a while as well. It's not the most balanced of maps. It's not like it's Neo Sylphid or something, and it's got a pretty solid across the board map balance. It's actually pretty wonky, especially Zerg versus Protoss. That's a 6-4 advantage for Zerg on average. But overall, I just love the map and its style. It's a remake of the map Gladiator, which was a 4-player map. But I mean, I love these asymmetrical 3-player maps. They just provide so much interesting dynamics to the game in both the stylistic choice of the players approaching it, and also just like how the map looks in general. Like, it's just different and unique.
For sure, I thought it was a bit of a gimmick when this map came out. It's like a 3-player Gladiator that won't stick around very long, but it turns out to be having even more longevity than the original. We're kind of at a deficit of good 3-player maps. We've got plenty of good 4-player maps. There's some really solid 2-player maps as well, but 3-player maps are hard to come by, and this one seems to bring us some great games.
I think so. I mean, depending on the players, it's not too imbalanced. Like, I think the statistics are actually 55% for Zerg against Protoss, but at the pro level, those tiny differences can be astronomical. So a 5% bonus might turn into a 10% bonus, depending on the sample of data size you're eyeballing. Well, that, you know, it remains to be seen just how balanced this map is, but players have figured out that there's very interesting ways of playing on it, and we see that Ruin is a little bit wary of a potential 9-9 gate in the center of the board, so checking that with a probe right away, making sure there's no shenanigans. This is a great map for center gates. It's not going to be that this time around though.
Yeah, just once again, relatively mirrored builds here. Players getting their tech online, single zealot. Let's see if there's another attempt here to skip over range in favor of that robo. Can be really strong on this map to go for 3 gate. Very tempting to do so because of this high ground natural, and so maybe skipping over that range early, not going to be as desirable here as it was on our previous map.
Yeah, I mean, with the high to low transition from main to natural, you do have to be a little bit more wary of early pressure. If they do somehow set up a contain with like a very fast 3-gate goon build or something, you can be in a little bit of pressure and a little trouble having to then elevate out units to try and flank and compensate against that. But both players kind of playing very orthodox style for the time being. No crazy risks have been taken. It's both just a range into robo, it looks like, on both sides, which is very traditional PvP in the meta right now. There's nothing crazy about this at all. It's just very tried and true, hedging your bets against the rock paper scissor potentiality from both sides, wanting to get a quick observer out in case of the DT play, but also not being super greedy yourself or being super aggressive either.
Again, lots of respect being shown between these two guys. Not trying to put one over on their opponent early on and get a quick win, just playing out a solid style and give them opportunities to get advantages later on. Whoa, that's a lot of gateways. Ruin going for a highly aggressive follow-up to this. He wants to make sure he's got the robo and the observatory, so he doesn't just straight up die if there was a DT, but he is going to put on a lot of pressure with these Dragoons and try to hit a timing here right as Paralyze is getting this Reaver online to get on top of that high ground, kind of dominate on Dominator here, the high ground of Paralyze, control him and keep him in his base.
Now, this is a bit of a double-edged sword, it has to be said. Like, if you do go for the Observer before the 3-gate to be safe against the Dark Templar, it obviously does slow down your Gateway and Dragoon count ever so slightly, which does take a little bit of wind out of the sails. So if Paralyze does go for this 2-gate play like he has, he should, with the defender's advantage, line up nicely for this, and the game will go on. And eventually that'll be a slight favorite for Paralyze, assuming good micro, because he will have a slightly faster Reaver timing. We're going to be trying to throw down an insurance policy in the way of a fairly fast Nexus here to compensate. He knows that it's likely that also Paralyze will go for a Nexus, as well as have enough to defend against this with a 2-gate, and it is going to be that 2-gate variant. So assuming the high ground control is good from Paralyze and he defends well here, I mean, Ruin could be in a little bit of trouble, but it seems like Paralyze giving away the high ground for free with the slightly slower unit production. There is a Dragoon advantage for Paralyze, for Ruin for just for a second here. 2 Zealot advantage for Paralyze, trying to be leveraged while waiting for this slugged out Reaver to come to the front. Even though there's a Dragoon advantage, with those 2 Zealots can soak up a lot of phase disruption shots and buy enough time for this Reaver to slug it out into the natural, and the game state will be reset a little bit here for both players.
It's an attempt from Ruin there to dive on top of those Dragoons. See him running straight up into melee range of that Zealot, or that pair of Zealots, in order to try and gun down one of those Dragons initially, but it looked like one of those didn't fire, and so he wasn't able to get the one shot. Followed up with a couple kills, but only trades like 2 for 1 on those Dragoons. And so this Reaver here will shore up the defense. Paralyze not going to be going across the map anytime soon to deal damage, but he will have a very nice position to just defend. Make sure that Ruin doesn't abuse him here in the natural for now. Ruin getting his own Reaver up here onto this high ground. Slightly faster Nexus for him as well. So slight advantage going over to Ruin for the time being. Paralyzed with 2 Reavers. Can he utilize that? Can he leverage that with a push to actually get some damage going? There's a counterattack available for Ruin right now. Might try to come in here and kill some reinforcing units, or maybe go after some probes. Not really sure just yet, but he's going to pull the trigger as soon as he sees these Reavers leave the natural.
There was a little bit of a mini game there from Ruin, managing to circumnavigate vision range of the observers. Both players trying to avoid Paralyze trying to avoid the observer getting a scout, and Ruin trying to avoid getting his observer found out. Does take a few shots on that observer. If he's not quick, he's going to lose that observer, and that's a big win for Paralyze, taking away that critical utility unit. You can't just afford to keep making observers willy-nilly here. 75 gas is a big deal in this matchup, so every observer snipe counts, both in the terms of the information warfare and also the resource curve of the game. Taking the high ground position of this pizza slice to try and bat back Ruin now is Paralyze with that speed upgrade on the shuttle now, surging forward and trying to force a lot of pressure onto Ruin. He knows the tech timings for Ruin are a little bit lackluster because that 3-gate committal is going to fly into the main base and try and punish this. Force a little bit of lost mining time at the bare minimum. Maybe even get a pot shot off on some of these gas probes would be good as well. So far, so good for Paralyze. He's fighting back strong against Ruin in game number 2 as long as he can get out here with the shuttle.
Ooh, he let the shuttle stop there. Want to keep that momentum going for the most part. Oh! The Reaver almost goes down, takes a hit, but does manage to pick up there. Ruin gonna bring all the Dragoons back into the main. Paralyze has got a good position in front of the natural. He can push in here with the 2 Reavers and maybe take over this high ground. This is a really scary situation right now for Ruin. He's way out of position, and Paralyze just gonna get right in here. This concave is looking very good as Paralyze's Reavers start to fire, getting a lot of damage onto these clumped up Dragoons, trying to run forward and actually kill off this shuttle. Dude, Ruin getting a little bit outmaneuvered here in this game. Finally gets a shot onto the Reaver of Paralyze, but his own Reaver goes down. Both Reavers being juggled nicely by Paralyze. There's not a lot of Dragoons left. The defender's advantage right now for Ruin is holding him strong. One Reaver left here, and he manages to get that one last shot off. Dude, crazy back and forth here with this high ground, but with the probes going down, I think this is just going to be a straight up Paralyzed win.
Man, he even kills the Reaver, the last remaining 2 Dragoons, and the shuttle still exists and will persist, rotating into the main base. Literally just 1 or 2 shots from going down to these phase disruptor shots, but he does manage to get a connection as well as keep this shuttle alive. What are you doing though, Paralyze? You're going to lose that shuttle and Reaver now. He could have got that to safety, but he doesn't. They'll still find a Dragoon kill for compensation. Still enjoying a very comfortable lead though is Paralyze. 20 supply, another Reaver, big connection in the natural expansion, 4 or so probes going down to that Scarab. And when all said and done, Paralyze definitely looking more mobile in this game number 2.
He's going to come back in here again with the Reaver. Big shots on the shuttle. Going to target the Reaver now. Back to the shuttle. We'll finish off this Reaver here in short order. But Dragoons on the high ground are going to be taking down the Dragoons here of Ruin. Just too many of those to contend with. And no Reaver here for Ruin to potentially try to fight back. Holding that high ground now. Going to take some good trades here. High to low, Reaver trying to come up, gonna take a pot shot, does manage to kill off one of these Dragoons, but the writing's on the wall, man. Paralyze is running away with this game.
Yeah, I mean, Ruin is not looking so hot in game number 2. Things continue on this trajectory, Saiyan. I mean, I do have a feeling this is going to be going to a decider match between these 2. And even though this is Ruin's best matchup, he's definitely being given a run for his money here. There is some counter damage potential with this shuttle and Reaver trying to get some good connections. There's nothing to support these 2 slugged out Reavers on the ground. So he gets 1 Scarab connection for free, but he does lose the shuttle. I mean, this is getting worse and worse for Ruin now. He has not found any compensation. He might just be tapping out. There it is. Really good GG timing from both of these players. Have a good game read on the situation and know exactly when they're beat. You can see that's why they're tapping out at those junctions. There's just not really much counterplay at those phases. So at least respect these guys' GG timing and understanding of the game state at every junction and knowing when there's no hope left for them. We're going to be going into that game number 3, Sam.
Intense second game as Paralyze gets the better of Ruin. It was on Ruin though for pulling all of his Dragoons back. He didn't need to pull every Dragoon to the main base to hold that. Right. 2 Reavers over in the main, so bit of a mistake there. Underestimating Paralyze. He manages to rotate and hold that high ground, take an amazing fight. Now we're here with Ruin in bottom right, Paralyze top left, cross map situation for this final match.
And the map Deja vu. Here we are yet again in this simulation of a universe that is the Matrix. And yeah, I mean, I don't just think that's a StarCraft 2 player thing. I know these guys were both StarCraft 2 players, so you could, like, you know, kind of meme on them a little bit and be like, oh guys, you know, you don't need to push the select all army button and send everything to the main base. That's just a StarCraft 1 issue in general. You see even StarCraft 1 veteran players that have played this game non-stop for decades, they make those similar mistakes where you commit all of your defenders to one location, even when unnecessary, and it does usually become exploited. Sometimes it's just like, you know, almost not necessarily laziness, but just complacency of, you know, going 1A, 2A, 3A, quickly send your control groups into the defensive spot just to be safe. But really, you don't need to send everything there. Now, you see that happen time and time again from these players, and the other guy is kind of trying to hope on capitalizing on that and forcing him not to add too much finesse to his defenses by, you know, sending the exact amount of units necessary each time, and instead committing way too many units to deal with that and setting himself up for a 1-2 combo as a result. And it usually does pay off.
It's classic misdirection. I mean, it happens all the time in Broodwar.
Right.
One of the most difficult things to deal with is early zealot attacks from PVZ, when Protoss is just sending like a couple zealots here, a couple zealots there, hitting you in all your different bases at the same time, and you have to precisely split off the right number of lings to chase each of those and control them all in different locations. And these are the types of exchanges that you have to build up like a tolerance for over time, and understanding for over a long period of time. And
yeah,
it can be very difficult to maneuver those situations perfectly. Now, Paralyze throws down a manor pylon here because there was no zealot in the main to actually clear that out. It does do quite a slowdown on this mineral mining, and Ruin had to clear that with 2 probes and a Dragoon in the end.
I mean, the thought process behind the mana pylon is, you know, it screws up the mining paths of the units, as well as sometimes blocking in a probe. And a worker mines an average of 50 minerals per minute per worker. So if you do cancel the pylon at 99 and get most of that money back, and you force the guy to have 1 probe not mining, maybe another probe attacking that pylon, or at least not being able to mine that patch optimally, sometimes it does end up paying off in a big way, with that mana pylon slightly edging you out in terms of an economic lead. Does shut down that probe scout from getting in. So, I mean, so far so good for Paralyze in game number 3.
Pretty fast robo here on the side of Ruin once again. I think he's went rangeless robo again. On the other side, though, Paralyze opening with a very quick Nexus. Look at this Nexus timing. Extremely quick. Really devoted to getting this second base online super fast. He's kind of calling the bluff here of Ruin, or just kind of calling Ruin's build and just saying, you know what, you're probably just going to keep playing the same way you have been. Very conservative style of PvP, building that
right.
robo really nice and early, getting the observer, you know, getting extra gates, lots of dragoons, making sure that you're safe. What if I just throw down a Nexus right now and get ahead of you, throw down the gateways later, and then I'll have a huge advantage? And it's working out beautifully here. There's really no threat on the map right now from Ruin, and he's just throwing down his own Nexus at a later timing.
Well, I think the thought process here is that Ruin is very unlikely to 3-gate him again, and that would be something that could do a lot of damage to what Paralyze is going for, especially if it was a straight-up 3-gate without Robo. But this time around, just a teched out play from Ruin with a slightly greedy Nexus, but nowhere near as greedy as Paralyze is being right now. He's already mining and probe transferring over to that natural, and he's enjoying a pretty sizable lead. There's a probe scout trying to sneak in and identify that, but not able to do so. So, like, this is really going Paralyze's way.
Paralyze is going to have those extra gateways faster. He's going to have more Dragoons is going to have more probes because of this extra production over here at the natural. That extra Nexus coming up a lot sooner. It's going to be up to Ruin to utilize this earlier Reaver and Shuttle to maybe get something done, or just trade later on in the game at a advantage. Maybe get in there and deal some probe damage, some harassment later on. But for now, he's just going to be behind. No two ways about it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is really good for Paralyze. Like, as long as he makes no mistakes, he's in a phenomenally good position. And it's not like he's in a, he's just straight up going to win the game. Anything can happen in terms of like, unit trading or what have you. At the end of the day, StarCraft is all about trading. It's one thing getting an advantage with more economy or what have you, but actually leveraging that advantage and utilizing it to trade well is what is critical. So the units still have to do the heavy lifting that they need to. It's just that he's going to be enjoying a slightly easier time of it. Ruin, though, this is his best matchup. Can he intercept this observer in the center of the board? He's identified the observer, but he's still a little bit hesitant to pull the trigger on chasing that down right away until he knows there's no Dragoons nearby. If he risks his Dragoons getting caught out in the open, he doesn't know this was a faster Nexus from Paralyze, so as far as he's concerned, there could be way too many Dragoons to handle. That's why he's being a little bit more timid with these Dragoons in the center of the board right now. He could just straight up lose the game if these Dragoons get caught.
Paralyze just starting to get ahead in supply overall now, finally. That earlier Nexus is starting to kick in. Oh, these Dragoons are trapped over here at center left. This is a scary moment for Ruin. He's going to lose everything, man. Cannot dive on top of that Reaver. Can't get a shot on the shuttle. Dragoons coming up from the left and the right. He's just going to gun down so many of these. And Paralyze, with everything, all the damage dealers being removed. Where is the shuttle here for Ruin, man? That shuttle with the Reaver should have been out first. He should have the shuttle Reaver combo out ahead of Paralyze. I just don't even see it.
He was just waiting for the speed upgrade to finish up before even thinking about sending it out. Usually you don't even make the shuttle right away. You just slug out the Reaver, optimize your minerals into something else, and make it once the speed upgrade's almost finished. As you can see, the shuttle's now ready with speed finishing up, so has that utility available to him. But that's a massive lead for Paralyze, killing those Dragoons for free and enjoying the earlier Nexus. I mean, this is kind of crazy what we're seeing here. Like, Paralyze is really outmaneuvering Ruin in this game. As long as Paralyze doesn't make any blunders, I mean, this is pretty smooth sailing.
Well, we've seen him make blunders before, so let's hold off here for a moment. Let's wait and see. Paralyze holding that high ground right outside of Ruins and Natural. This is a problem in basically every matchup. This high ground here is a powerful position, and Paralyze just holding that down for now. Threatening to dive in, but not necessarily going to do that. Instead, just waiting for Ruin to make the first move. In fact, Ruin's going to send his shuttle out on the map. Looks like he's sending it down towards the bottom left. Going to drop that Reaver and clear out whatever was down there, whatever spotter Paralyze had in that position. Poking into the Natural, looking for a little damage here. Seeing if Ruin was out of position, but he's not. He's ready for this. Couple of shots from these Reavers. Nothing connecting so far, but 3 Reavers available for Ruin. He can't pick them all up into the shuttle. He's got to be careful with them.
I mean, Ruin did get a connection on the 5 of those Dragoons and soften them up a little bit with a Scarab. Now, though, Ruin losing one of his own Dragoons. I mean, this is looking pretty interesting. There is a pretty sizable economic lead here for Paralyze, but I mean, this is a mirror matchup, so anything can happen. And it looks like Ruin is covering his bases well. He's got, Dragoons chilling in the Natural, waiting for that counter for Paralyze. Bit of a skill check there from Paralyze, just making sure that Ruin's not being too hyper aggressive and committing all of his forces out onto the map. Now I'm going to try and see if he can intercept maybe some of these forces out on the map with the utility of the shuttles and slightly faster reinforcement range. So far doing a pretty good job of just, tactically moving his army around. Does get an observer snipe going as well. So this is still looking pretty good for Paralyze. He could take a third base behind this and just sit back and go on the defense, but he knows that there's a possibility that Ruin will want to do the same here as the defender and take his third base in a few moments. So both players, I imagine, going to be taking their thirds in a moment. There's Paralyze's third. I'm sure Ruin will be quick to follow.
Yeah, this could be another longer PvP, guys. That third base coming up heralds a long-standing game, and we might be going into, you know, Templar, High Templar, DTs, and all that good stuff. Throwing up some spotter pylons here on the top side. Paralyze, being prepared for any sort of drops coming in. He's done a good job so far of keeping Dragoons active in defending that natural, and Ruin doing the same. Paralyze pushing forward here now, going up this high ground though against the Reavers at that position. It's going to be hard to break that spot, and indeed he is going to run away from 4 Reavers on high ground. That's a little bit too much for Paralyze to handle. He's still got a lot of money in the bank. He actually needs more gateways, it looks like. Not quite enough production here back at home to really crank out all the units that he could be making here. Pushing forward 4 Reavers for himself as well. Going to be dropped here on this high ground. Can he push in on this? Is a scary moment here. One of his shuttles not being controlled. He's having a hard time controlling all of this stuff at the same time. He's going to lose one of those shuttles. Dropping all the way back here. Dude, this is going Ruin's way.
Yeah, no, this is definitely going Ruin's way. I mean, that's equalized the supplies in a big way. There is more production for Paralyze, so he's should still race ahead a little bit here because he's got slightly more workers as well as pretty even production facilities relative to what Ruin's going for. That was definitely a little bit worrisome for a second there. Well, Paralyze getting those Reavers taken out. Tries to do some counter damage, but it's not going to be successful. Ruin is just everywhere. He shuts down another Reaver from Paralyze. Now enjoying a bit of a supply lead for the first time in this game. Paralyze not really looking as potent as he was a few moments ago. Does have this third base coming up at a reasonable timing. So it is still a fairly even position for both sides. So I wouldn't say one player is advantaged necessarily. Although Ruin definitely made those scales as even as possible in those recent trades.
Yeah, Ruin just trading a little bit better. It feels like Paralyze getting a bit antsy. Like that push into the high ground there was a little bit crazy, and then the drop of Reavers, and seems like he's not quite as confident controlling 2 different shuttles as Ruin is. Ruin really seems to be adept with that, but Paralyze is like struggling. He's not getting both shuttles moving, and he's having a hard time juggling all of those Reavers at the same time, and it's understandable. It's a lot of APM. But Ruin is just able to pull it off. He can definitely get that going, and it's allowing him to get back into this game fully now as he pushes out into towards the middle.
Yeah, they got a nice, great observer that's slightly off to the bottom left of the middle, which gave him forewarning about these 2 shuttles sharking down. He's got enough units in to intercept that. Does do a pretty good drone pull, and the Scarab does dud out. So now these 2 shuttles kind of dead in the water. He has to go into the main base with his other shuttle, trying to get some further damage. There's 1 cannon there to sandbag by a little bit of time. He'll be able to take that out. Denies a bit of mining, but hasn't found much critical damage with this shuttle in Ruin's base just yet. You can see Ruin bringing so many forces to come and clean this up, and we'll probably be able to still deal with this. I mean, there's another potential big connection, and the natural does kill so many probes. Oh, that's 2 massive detonations on that mineral line. Probably a total of about 10 or so probes. Going down to just those 2 Scarab hits, and Paralyze at long last finding some major damage, but hang on a second because Ruin's going on the counter offensive. 4 Reavers dropping at the natural third, and these Dragoons are kind of bottlenecked, so he will kill at least some of these Dragoons while also forcing a trade down at the southern hemisphere. There is a superior count of Dragoons for Paralyze, so I imagine he's going to win this fight, but the shuttles with the Reavers coming down to support this will be forcing Paralyze into retreat.
Wow, that one pretty Paralyzed favorite. I mean, he got some very good damage there. It looked like he was going to get completely shut out, but the third base, the third try was the charm. Reavers are going to come back over here to the third once again. And Paralyze having a hard time dealing with this, getting his Dragoons over here. He's going to lose the Nexus. That's a massive loss. even bigger than killing the probes. Denying that Nexus is really going to slow down the Paralyze economy.
Yeah, that's a really big deal. It takes a long time to rebuild that and set up again. Paralyze probably wants to even think about double expanding, but he's not confident about being able to cover both fronts at once. He kind of needs to do something like a double expansion to come back in this game in terms of his economy, but I mean, it just spreads him too thin to do that. And now we've got High Templars out for Ruin, assuming good unit control, which he's known for, especially in this matchup. I mean, Ruin might start to pull him apart. His army movements look superior as well. He's staying fluid in the center of the board, ready to respond to threats. Has an observer on the southwest of this donut ring in the middle of the board as well. Another Reaver counterattack coming into the natural expansion of Paralyze. Does manage to take out one of the Reavers of Paralyze. Hasn't yet found big Scarab connections. Even another drop from Paralyze in the natural. Just craziness on all sides, saying as both players trying to harass each other to their full potential. Shuttle does go down for Ruin in the natural Paralyze, and so does Paralyze's shuttle in the natural Ruin. I mean, this is just insanity. Like, both players are trying to do their maximum attempts at harassment. Ruin, though, with that snipe on the third base, slightly ahead of things.
Does seem like he's getting the better end. Ruin attacking over into center left again, I think. He's got something over there. Maybe not dropped out just yet. Trying to long distance mine here. Paralyze behind the curve, just slightly. Zealots out on the map, just kind of doing the ring around the rosy thing as Ruin chases those. Ruin moving into position here on the left-hand side. Will Paralyze be there in time to contest this? Zealots coming across the map, and he's just going to get right in here and on top of that Nexus before Paralyze even realizes what's going on. Here he goes. High Templar, gotta throw down some storms on all of these Templars. Oh my god, the storms are way too good for Ruin. Dude, Paralyze walking into an absolute meat grinder here, and he is just gonna lose everything.
I mean, he hasn't lost the Nexus yet, but he's trying to reinforce the third base, which is actually a mistake because his units are going to get absolutely eaten alive. There's a counter attack at the third base of Ruin. It should get shut down. There is a storm that activates, but only kills one probe. Man, these trades are good for Ruin. He has doubled the supply of Paralyze. There's a few desperate last Hail Marys, Psionic Storms from Paralyze, but imagine he's going to be tapping out here in just a few moments. I don't even know how Ruin manages to do it. He just understands. He sees the code of the Matrix and makes it happen here in the decider match on Deja Vu, and Ruin will be going on to face against Speed in the final match.
Ooh, that was a solid PvP, Xun. Very good PvP there. Ruin and Paralyze very closely matched, but it seems like Ruin had his number there. Finally able to take down Paralyze. Like, with all things being even, I feel like Ruin is definitely a more solid Protoss player.
Yeah, I mean, that was some pretty stellar stuff from Ruin, it has to be said. I can see why it's his best matchup. Like, he makes weird positions that are slightly unfavorable not look too bad at all. And that's really difficult to achieve in a mirror match situation. You don't usually see that at all. Like, you have to be a bit of a special player to make that happen. One of the reasons why Jadon was so formidable in Zerg versus Zerg was purely because of once he did get a small lead, he would never throw it away and always be able to compound that lead into a victory. That was why he had such a crazy win record back in the day. And Ruin kind of showing that even if you're slightly behind in the mirror matchup, there's a lot of comeback potential. As long as you play perfectly with your execution, your micro and unit control overall, he just seems so fluid and able to adapt to whatever situation comes his way. And I'm really curious what happens between these two guys here in the finals. This is both of their worst matchup. So both players are going to be slightly out of their element, which might give us absolute fireworks.
Let's see it. Speed versus Ruin. Kicking it off now. Here he is. Ruin over in the bottom right-hand corner. Speed in top left. Once again, we're here on Radeon, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this match, this group stage, round of 32 Group F. It's been an absolute blast casting this with you, Xun, and I've really been enjoying the games here so far. Looking forward to an awesome semifinal final as well. So round of 16 looking hot so far.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have quite the same amount of magic as ASL does, but it certainly has been scratching that itch between seasons until the end of August rolls on by. And I'm certainly happy that we get to cast SCSL together. Definitely a good second choice for me. It'll be 11 gas from speed, optimizing his tech timings, getting that factory about 5 or 6 seconds quicker. Usual factory timing, 228, 229, depending on your optimizations, and going for 11 gas allows you to get that down about 222, 223, and slightly faster vulture timing means you can punish something like a Nexus first, which is what Ruin is going for. Now it is cross map, so slightly longer rush distances to contend with, but the vulture will arrive in the natural just before the dragoons start coming down the ramp, so you have a chance to pick off some probes and deny some mining time to really make up that deficit in the early game.
Yeah, this is classic speed. He's gonna get that factory down here. Really swift timing. Was that 223? Super fast here, and it's just so common to go Nexus first. I'm liking the opener here for speed. He knows that this is most likely what Ruin will be going for. Ruin opening with 2 gateways. This is the older style, safe version of the Nexus first, where you drop the double gate after Nexus to make sure that you have enough to not just straight up die or lose your Nexus. Have that extra Zealot and the 2 Dragoons popping out to hold that bunker rush if it does indeed come.
Now, it does mean he has to cut probes for this, which also takes away a lot of the wind out of the sails of this build order to make it safer. So that also kind of goes speed way. SCV going to come in and confirm that this core is a little bit delayed with the 2 gateways, so he knows this is the... You see the Nexus isn't building anything for a few seconds there. So you already cut 1 probe on the main Nexus to squeeze all of this out. Has a AI pylon coming out in the natural. That'll also enable him to build a shield battery if this was something like a very strong FD push to try and bowl over the Protoss player early with a few SCVs and lots of Marines and a bunker being placed. So Ruin going to try and optimize his early game defense, but this is a very fast vulture that he's going to have to contend with. And even with that 38-second rush distance ramp to ramp of a worker on Radiant, this vulture could get in, but the response to that is to completely wall off here for Ruin. So he's going to try and stop this vulture even getting to the mineral line.
Very sneaky play here from Ruin, realizing that this is his biggest point of weakness. That moment right before the Dragoons start to pop out. Throws down a gateway in this wall. He'll probably cancel this once he gets the Dragoons down the ramp here, but he's taking his time. He's getting rid of the SCV first, then he's going to bring the Dragoons down here. This just gives him so much comfort with the gateway coming up here. He's actually going to let that finish. That's interesting. Kind of a funny little wall in the front here. 2 pylons and a gateway.
I mean, he saw that the vulture was trying to open up the wall by hitting the egg, so Ruin's just like, okay, well, I can let the gateway finish and open up the egg myself. And it won't even take me long to do that because you helped kill it for me.
He opens up that pathway, and now he's got a little path to get on out of the base. 3 Marines making their way across the map. I'm not sure what they're planning to do, but maybe put on a little pressure here. As a dropship is coming out behind this, vultures are going to be leveraged into the main to try and get some damage onto Ruin. He failed to get that damage with the early vulture. In fact, a really handy way of dealing with that Ruin. Again, making Nexus first look completely overpowered with just a simple fix to make it impossible for him to get any damage with that early vulture. Now running by here, can he get past the wall? No, cannot get past the wall, cannot lay down these mines and get any damage with them either. Very good hold here for Ruin.
Yeah, no, this is really high level stuff. I'm sure Speed's going to be a little bit frustrated and not finding much way of counteracting this early Nexus first. Now, it has to be said, this was a safe Nexus first, so he did cut probes. It's not like he's really far ahead, but after losing that Vulture and being shut down a little bit here, it does start to add up. And the fact that he went for 11 gas as well also slows him down a little bit on his other side of the map. And you got a very cookie cutter style here from Ruin. 3-gate Observer, the most standard, safe way of playing Protoss versus Terran. Just gives you so much more unit production to shut down any kind of crazy 2-base pressure builds out of the Terran, like say a 3-factory play. So he's going to be super safe against anything that comes his way, and you have more than enough Dragoons to put, 2 Dragoons in each of your mineral line to deal against Vulture drops as well. Seems like that actually might be... Oh, is he going for Cloaked Wraiths? He's going for Cloaked Wraiths.
Oh,
wow.
I love it, Xun. Speed.
It's so creative.
Speed is one of the only Terran players who does this. This is so cool. I've seen him do 2-port Wraith with this and make it work against Protoss players, pro-level Protoss players.
Yeah.
On my channel, I've casted quite a lot of Speed games. His ladder games are pretty insane, and his control with the Wraith is something else, man. He is going to come in here and start to harass, going to get a lot of probe kills, and that's exactly what he's looking for. It's kind of like a build versus Zerg, where you just suddenly show up with a bunch of Wraiths and you just start getting kills, and Protoss players are just not trained to deal with this, man. Nobody does this, and so he's just gonna sit here and just take the probe damage. Like, he'd lose so many probes here. Was it 4 or 5 probes already? Running away from the Observer. Observer is not quick yet. These Wraiths are way faster, and so he's just gonna rotate all the way around and then back into the 3rd base. Get a few more kills here if he can. Looks like there's no probes over here just yet, but dude, this is already kind of paid for itself, and slowing down Ruin quite a bit. It's not over as well. Speed gonna continue to make Wraiths, and he can snipe down shuttles too in the mid and late game. Also, Observers are not going to be safe out here either, so this is a very cool play from Speed.
No, I like it a lot, Saiyan. It's definitely an unorthodox way of playing, but it's not like crazy super cheesy. It's kind of like a pressure build, and also provide you a lot of anti-air utility to shut down, like you say, shuttles and observers out on the map. And you definitely can play a macro Terran style with Wraiths in support of that. It's just not utilized very often because of how execution orientated it is. Not many people can pull it off. Speed, though, used to go by the moniker 10-min flash, because for the first 10 minutes he could play very Flash-esque, especially back in the day when Flash was more of a monster. So kind of showing his caliber in this game. He's splitting off some of the units. He's got 2 vultures making around to the natural third of the northeast quadrant of the map, and the Wraith's going to be hitting the natural, so he's going to draw the attention of Ruin to this natural and hopefully slip in these vultures as well.
Here he comes again. There is a cannon here now, but that's not going to stop Speed, who's just going to go ahead and pick off a bunch of probes here at the corner of the mineral patch. Even with the cannon, can't really hold this.
Man.
That's a lot of probe damage, man.
Yeah, no, it is pretty insane. I mean, it doesn't look like the vultures have been utilized yet. I think there's still enough forces at the 3rd base to prevent that. But I mean, he's definitely starting to make up the deficit in this game. And he's going all the way into 6 factory to do a push timing. So he's kind of semi all in with this. Look, he does need to find damage, but as long as he executes it well, he can still transition into a normal macro game the longer the game goes on. It's just he will need to find some significant damage with these Wraiths over a continued period, and so far he has certainly managed to ascertain that.
Well, how most Protoss players are going to be holding something like the 6 factory push is with Reaver and with, of course, shuttles. Just dropping Zealots, bombing. Gets the Observer, the scan here coming through, and now he can go ahead and one-shot down a bunch more probes. 1 Wraith falls, and so there's not enough DPS to one-shot the probes anymore, but it will just back away for now after getting some more of that damage. Maybe bring the Wraiths around to start looking for those shuttles. help his push be a little bit more successful going forward.
I mean, I kind of like this from Ruin as well. Like, he's powering up really heavily on gateways, so if somehow Speed does go for this really strong push timing, which is what he's gearing up to do, he's got 6 factories worth of unit production that will allow him to take his third base super safe, but he is going to be lacking on the upgrades, so he will be reliant on doing a push timing potentially to try and shut down, not necessarily kill the 4th, but, you know, force the Protoss player into a more defensive position and have to respond to the aggression. Doing a good job of catching some of these Dragoons out of position as well, rotating around the main force of his Dragoons, but 2 Dragoons do fall when all said and done. Speed being very active out on the map, utilizing his slightly higher APM and execution oriented style. Now the big push is starting to come underway. He's going to attack and defend at the same time and take a command center behind this, but this is still a lot of forces that are being brought to bear in the center of the board. Ruin needs to force as many sieges as possible while cranking out these units. He's only just now starting to mine on his 4th base, but he has got like 11 or so gateways. But hang on a minute, because look at this, he kills the High Templar with the cloaked Wraith Saiyan. Takes a lot of the splash damage potential away. Now he's shutting down the shuttles and additional High Templars of Ruin. This is crazy from Speed.
The storms on top of his own. It's almost like he's getting attacked by Mutalisk there, but in fact, it's Wraiths flying in, and he can continue to do this. He could bring another, bring the rest of the Wraiths forward, even though they've got no HP left. Only 4 of them remain with hardly anything left. They are invisible, and with only 1 observer here, it's hard to cover everything. Coming forward now, Speed gonna go ahead and take this fight. Diving on top of the shuttle. Can he actually get it? Not quite able to get it. And so some of the Templar do end up getting out, but they're not getting the greatest storms here. Speed forcing the shuttle to unload way far back so that he wasn't able to get the perfect storms on this army. And now gonna push forward a little bit further. All the Wraiths are gone, but Speed has a lot of momentum here. Let's see if he can make this push work. That is so many Zealots coming forward, dude. So many Zealots coming out here for Ruin. Is this enough to just bleed through? Oh, that storm as well. Absolutely monstrous on that bottom chunk of tanks. It feels like Speed might still survive with some of his forces, but he has really been slowed down here, and so many of these tanks are low.
Yeah, he's desperate to get to that 6 o'clock pocket and start to knock that out and try and set up a kill move by eliminating this while his own 3rd base finishes up. He needs more vultures to screen against these Zealots. So here comes the Zealot bomb on top of those tanks. In a little bit of trouble now is Speed. Even 1 Zealot harassing the mineral line at the 3rd while he's distracted controlling the units at the 4th base of Ruin. He has got these siege tanks set up into a formidable position to start putting that Nexus on the clock, though. Ruin might not have enough units to dislodge that. But he has got a lot of damage done with this Zealot at the 3rd of Speed. He hasn't yet responded to that Zealot, I don't think. He's going to try and make 1 attempt now to break out of this Terran position. He's already lost the Nexus, though. The damage has been done. Does blanket those 3 tanks on the left with a storm. Tries to clean up the remaining forces. He will be able to keep this tank count pretty significantly low, so the game is still manageable for Ruin despite losing that 4th base, but Speed technically did accomplish his goal of knocking that out.
Yeah, he managed to get the Nexus. He's killed a large part of the probes as well. Some great Zealot bombing, though, from Ruin overall, and there isn't really any other anti-air from Speed here. He's got 1,000 gas in the bank. Kind of an awkward situation for him. Could start to leverage that if he gets a science facility out here. Make some science vessels. They're going to be very helpful once those come online. But for now, he's just got no anti-air. He's building a turret finally. That turret finishes up in the nick of time, pushing this shuttle away. But you can see he doesn't have Goliaths and he doesn't have those Wraiths anymore, so he's struggling to deal with the Zealot bombs and harassment attempts from Ruin.
Yeah, I mean, Ruin will also enjoy a pretty comfortable upgrade situation because this is 1-1 upgrades for the Terran for so long. Ruin will probably trade better and better as the time goes on until finally Speed catches up in his upgrades and gets that +3 attack. It's going to be a long time coming, though. Ruin has a lot of oxygen, a lot of breathing room. to start coming down here into the other side of the southern hemisphere. Take this bottom left quadrant of the map, set up a new rally point, and force Speed to yet again be the aggressor. It's going to be hard to secure a fourth base here for Speed. The third base is a little bit of a distance away to cover, but you got this bridge to easily hold. But trying to get out onto the map and take a fourth base is not easy unless you've already traded well. And even though he killed that fourth base, he lost a lot of tanks for his efforts.
Yeah, not too many tanks here just yet. Speed doing Speed things, running around with Zealot, or with Vultures, excuse me, and picking off probes here and there where he can, getting that harassment going. Finally, the Wraith has been made. We'll see if he continues with that, continues to make Wraiths. I think I would favor Science Vessels now. They are just such good utility units, and especially once you get that EMP online, can be very useful against the heavily reliant on High Templar style that Ruin is bringing to the fore here as a pretty decent supply. But Speed is very close on that, and he's actually cutting off probe transfers to bottom left. This is very good play by Speed. Look at all the probes that are going to go down here as this comes through. Gonna go ahead and cloak this Wraith as well. Go after the shuttle. That's a great pick off as well. This is really gonna cut down on the mobility of Ruin going forward.
Yeah, I like these technical plays here from Speed. It's certainly keeping him in the running. There's also a bit of a drop there from Ruin in the natural expansion. Don't think it was too successful in finding much damage, but I think he did a little bit of SCV damage as well as a little bit of lost mining time. I mean, every little helps in this situation. If Ruin does get away with setting up this fifth base, the other quadrant in the bottom left for free, it's going to be huge. He's trying to skirmish with the Terran now, trying to come in and kill more and more of these tanks, but that's too much Terran to handle. We'll have to pull back to safety. Wisely does elect to do that. Now though, Speed has a bit of a potential. He could start to apply pressure to Ruin, start to shuffle out onto the map. He's got a Science Vessel now. Got the availability of D-Matrix to protect against storms, as well as eventually put EMP to catch some of those critical High Templar units and deplete their energy instantly. And there is definitely a possibility for Speed to come onto the map and put a lot of pressure onto Ruin, but Ruin looks like he's macroing like a monster right now. So, I mean, I feel like Speed has to do something. He has to take a fourth right now, or just a straight up attack, and I don't think either of those things are going to be easy to accomplish. He finally has +2 weapons at least.
I think this is what Speed was kind of waiting for. Getting that +2 online is pretty critical to get that upgrade going. And he's going to try to gun down this shuttle. Oh, the EMP goes down, but it's a little bit late. One storm manages to go out. Hey, not bad at all. No tanks died in that fight. Speed trading out pure Vulture and a couple of Goliaths to make that happen. And now he's just going to go ahead and take that fourth base, floating out his natural CC over to that fourth a little bit preemptively, because his gas is still okay to mine and there's still a few minerals there, but he really wants to get this base online, and he's feeling a little bit worse for wear. Maybe can't afford to stop producing for any amount of time. Dude, these storms coming down on the front are really not cutting through the metal. There's still too many tanks here, and Rouge is going to be shoved back.
I mean, this is kind of crazy from Speed. Like, I thought this would be a lot more challenging for him to get over onto this top center of the board and start to secure this lane to the fourth base. And he's done that with such finesse, and suddenly Ruin not looking quite as hot as he was. He hasn't even yet started to set up gateways in the other rally point in the bottom left as well. So we're going to try and get the job done with mainly just one primary rally point, which does make the win conditions slightly more simplified for Speed the longer the game goes on. You just have to be able to split this map horizontally, which will be a bit of a challenge. He has some supply posts blocking on this bridge across the left-hand side, but D-Matrix comes down to shut down the storm potential on that tank. Really nice hold thus far. Will the SCVs fall to the storm drop, though? That's some pretty good storms. Not quite finding maximum damage, but certainly doing some heavy lifting to keep Ruin in a somewhat favorable position. It's also starting to get a sixth base set up now that the main and natural have been mined out for a little bit of time. Trying to maintain that massive base lead against Speed. It's going to be you know, 2 base Terran against potentially 4 base Protoss all over again once some probes have been transferred over.
Ooh, the counter attack from Speed is scary though. After throwing away all of those Templar earlier. Okay. Does manage to throw down a storm, but
okay.
The tank number has not been diminished much during all of these fights. The tanks are still really, really strong. There's a lot of them here in the middle, and he's starting to push forward. One counterattacking Zealot gonna get over there and just be a little bit annoying, but as long as Speed splits and spreads his tanks here and takes this next fight, I think he stands a very good chance of just wiping out Ruin's army. His upgrades are finally kicking in and starting to do some work for him, and Ruin's just having a hard time with only 1 shuttle here and only a few Templar to try and storm. Any of these get sniped down early, he is just going to get bowled over with a pure gateway army.
Yeah, it's certainly possible, but Speed currently in the driver's seat. If he sets up enough mines to cover his flank while pushing down to this bottom left quadrant of the map, there's definitely a kill move execution order that could pay off. A lot of these storms are whiffing for Ruin right now. Ruin trying to go on a little bit of counter offensive to draw some of the attention away from this attack vector, and Speed's kind of overreacting to it as well. He's sending a lot of units back to defend against that, even though it's literally just like 4 Dragoons and an Observer that's currently pressuring, which means basically that Speed is abandoning this entire attack path and starting to rotate round to the 6 o'clock instead. Now his army might be sandwiched from both sides if he's not careful. From the rally point of the right hand side as well as some of these forces already in the bottom left quadrant. More gateways being sprouted out down there as well to set up that second rally point at long last and start to get a better position. Now that Speed's got this 4th base going though, there's still a lot more hope for Speed. You need basically 2 bases worth of mining to be comfortable in TVP at all times.
Has some vessels over at these bases. Kind of looks like a anti-arbiter vessel, but it's not going to help too much against the storms here. What really helps is these vultures that just targeting down the Templar. Really good targets there. Gets rid of all the Templar and the shuttles. So there's a very good potential for a big counterattack now. He does lose the science facility there floating out in kind of no man's land, but this counterattack is looking really scary now. Ruin does not have the mass of Storm and Templar to deal with this push, and good target fire there as well. Gets rid of one of those Templar. Templar coming forward here. EMP! Huge EMP on those front Templar. Speed gonna just ram it down now, I imagine, with all of the Templar losing their storms. There's nothing to stop them here because it's just pure Dragoon Zealot from this position.
Yeah, it's good rotations there from Speed, trying to cut off the path of counterattack from Ruin, who was trying to circumnavigate a direct engagement. Has got his tanks pretty clumped up now, but I don't think that will be coming back to haunt him too much. There's not much Speed shuttle to leverage against that and bomb on top of those siege tanks, or many Zealots to run in top of those, and running into the rally point, trying to snipe a few of those critical high Templars while he still can. Now going to start to shuffle his tanks down further onto the map, and Ruin going to constantly threaten a counter attack to the 12, and even a storm drop at the natural third of Speed, trying to get that SCV train. Does manage to circumnavigate too much devastation. Not many SCVs falling to that. Still a bit annoying to draw his attention away from the front lines and setting up his own attack vectors. Ruin trying to expand more now, taking the natural third of the northeast quadrant, starting to put Speed on a bit of a clock and force Speed to make some moves soon, or risk drying up in this game.
Yeah, Speed gonna come down here towards that bottom left-hand pocket. But a few storms go down as these tanks push forward. This is the danger of pushing in on any of these bases, is that Ruin is just gonna keep on falling back and throwing down more and more storms, taking good trades and forcing you to take bad ones over and over again until eventually he overwhelms you from 2 rally points coming from both sides, and it's starting to happen here. Look at this, Ruin going for a counterattack right now, but a few Zealots and Dragoons coming up, and even going to bring some storms here forward as well to try and finish this off. Moving up onto the high ground, there's no tanks up here, it's just vultures defending, and so Speed will have to send something over here to defend this, At the same time, trying to push down into this bottom corner. Gonna kill off that Reaver at least, but this is such a way more of an important base for Speed right now. This base is everything, and the base at the bottom of the ramp for Ruin down in bottom left is not much of a big deal. Great storm landing on these SCVs as they try to retreat. Dude, there's almost no economy left for Speed behind this.
Yeah, Speed's in trouble. He can't get a kill move on this main base in the bottom left. And he has to retreat and defend back at home just to reset up his 2-base economy. Meanwhile, a probe transfer coming online to this natural third in the top right. So Ruin currently ahead of schedule, relatively speaking, to Speed. And we'll be trying to slowly but surely resecure this 12 o'clock pocket. But already falling by the wayside in this economic curve of the game. I'm not sure if Speed is gonna be able to play catch up right now. He's starting to lose velocity, and eventually the bomb will explode and eliminate his bus.
Speed is going for a desperate counterattack right now. It's that time, guys. Speed lost that CC, which was his natural CC that floated out. Now he's floating his main base CC over to the 4th base. So desperate times call for desperate measures, guys. He's going to try and leverage that over to the 4th base, get the mining back online there if he can. There's only one grounded CC right now, and Ruin is heading directly for it. All of Speed's army is over here helping him to crush this base, and Ruin is just going to go for the counterattack. Classic Protoss tactics here. Just storm everything as it attacks you and then counterattack in a different location.
Yeah, this is like Protoss versus Terran 1-on-1, trying to avoid any kind of direct engagement with the Terran and just doing these little counterattacks, ripping apart the economy and rally points of the Terran. You will probably take out this base in the top right, but I mean, Ruin's still mining happily on the 6 o'clock, which will be mined out eventually, and also this bottom left main base. So right now there's not much mining at all here for Speed. You can see his minerals barely ticking up. He has to resecure these bases at all costs, and he's currently dwarfed in supply, less than half the supply of Ruin in this game, and it is starting to look like a Protoss victory unless somehow Speed could get an attack going, but it doesn't look like he even believes in himself. He's just going to tap out, identifying just how bad the position is. Ruin, too much to handle in game number 1.
Breaking through Ruin. Those Protoss tactics, man, it's got to be such a pain in the butt to deal with. You're handling the counterattack back at home, and simultaneously your attack over on the Protoss side of the map is just getting stormed again and again and again. Tough game for Speed. Already down 1-0 in this series going into game number 2. We've got Ruin over here in the center right, Speed in the bottom left.
Okay, well, I mean, we did think this was... Oh, I mean, he's 8 racks in. I mean, this is crazy already. This could go really good or really bad for Speed, but one thing I'd like to point out is that when you are playing a very strong macro game like that in StarCraft, when you go into the next game, you're mainly thinking about, you know, small optimizations to make for, you know, improving that game state, and you're not even thinking about the ultra early game. And sometimes that's the thought process by throwing out these really quick cheese builds. It's going to be BBSing with a second SCV meeting up to the second barracks to really try and put the pressure onto Ruin right away. And Ruin might be thinking about how to optimize his mid to late game transitions against Speed, whereas Speed is thinking 2 steps ahead like a carpenter making stairs, and is actually going to be putting on so much heat and trying to see if Ruin will be forced out of the kitchen in game number 2 to equalize things up.
This is not a map where you often go Nexus first, though, so I'm kind of curious as to why Speed decided to do this. He's coming in from this funny angle. Look at what the angle he's taking to come into this natural. He's going to convince Ruin that he's top center. Oh, Ruin's not buying it, man.
Not buying it.
He's not buying it. He's heading down over to the main base, but he's not going to see the middle, and he's not going to figure out what's coming here until he sees that there's nothing in that main. And so, yeah, Speed's going to get in here before that even occurs.
Yeah, Speed opens his jacket and asks, "What are you buying?" And Ruin says, "Nothing from you, guy," and sends his probe straight to the main base. Going to be identifying this build super early. Has a Zealot actually coming out. Doesn't see the units from the low to high ground transition yet, but now the probe gets into the main base. He knows exactly what this is. Starts to pull off the probes preemptively. There is a bunker going up, but if he denies this bunker from going down, that's going to be great. So far, though, it looks like the bunker might actually finish, but he doesn't get good connections. He does get 3 Marines into that bunker. That's a pretty big win for Speed going forward, and most of these probes are boxed out from getting back to the safety of the Nexus, so Ruin in a lot of trouble right now.
Oh, I mean, Ruin, he almost had this with the probes coming up and surrounding those, just preventing the Marines from getting in the bunker would have been a hold, but he failed to do so, and now he's just kind of cooked, man. He lost so many probes. I mean, there's probably more SCVs here than there are probes at this point. And there's a bunker coming in. There's another bunker coming on. Well, there's SCVs on this side of the map too, so you got to count those.
Yeah, now there is. Now there definitely is after these additional probes going down. I mean, he's going to tap out in just a second here. He's lost way too much against this. What a well-executed cheese from Speed, re-establishing some dominance and tempo in this game. Ruin's going to try and fight this back, but he can shuffle these Marines in and out of the bunker. If they were inside the bunker, they wouldn't all be targeting the pylon, so he wanted to manually control those outside of the bunker to guarantee cutting off the power supply to that gateway as soon as possible and limit the Dragoon production to force Ruin to tap out. And really well executed from Speed. I mean, he didn't even convince him that he was in top left, and he still managed to make that attack work against a non-Nexus first. You have to hand it to Speed.
Well, he really thread the needle there, going right behind that Zealot, right? The Zealot walked out on the map, he just slipped right in, dropped the bunker there, in behind his line, in range of the gate, or not right quite in range of the gateway, but right in that one position. Very nicely played by Speed. He's definitely done that before on that map, you can tell.
Yeah. Really, really impressive stuff from him. The fact that he got away with that without even going up against an economic cheese build order of Ruin is really exceptional stuff. Saying, why don't you do a little bit of a long-winded intro? I'm going to run to the bathroom while we jump into our decider match here, which to decide who of these guys are going to be going through to that round of 16 to join Hero. It's going to be the finals between Speed and Ruin on Deja Vu.
Long-winded intro coming right up. Here we go. Speed. Over here in the top right-hand corner. Ruin in the bottom left. Quite an embarrassing way to go down in that second game. Nobody likes to fall to an early Marine pressure like that. The 2 racks play. Audacious attack from Speed to bring himself back into a 1-1 situation. It all comes down to this, guys. Who will make it through into the round of 16? Comes down to just 1 game, 1 map, Deja Vu. Here we go. Let's see if Speed wants to drop another 11 gas here and try to put on that early pressure. I feel like Ruin had a great response to that. I haven't seen it before, where the Nexus first player sees the 11 gas and the very quick factory and just makes a wall in their front. But it worked out beautifully for him on Radeon. It gave him a great position that he was able to leverage really, really well going into the late game. Still was a tough match, though. Even with that advantage, still Speed was able to make it into a real fighting game. Surprising to see him fall back on that BBS game number 2. I feel like he's a better player, honestly. But it worked out fine, and now he can go confidently into this game number 3.
I think it's interesting that you use the expression fighting game. I actually in some ways feel like StarCraft is like a strategy fighting game in how it plays out, because you're throwing out these different combo moves and trying to obfuscate by like, you know, doing 1-2 punches by attacking in different locations and what have you. And it is almost like a fighting game, trying to outmaneuver each other and go high and low and try and outposition. And it's almost like a fighting game on steroids, and plays a lot more like something that's a bit more high octane, like a fighting game, than something like chess and slow down and more methodical. Kind of interesting to think about. Sometimes I wonder if like the fighting game community could be won over to the beauty that is StarCraft if they just knew about it more.
Yes, I mean, I think that all communities should take a look at Broodwar. It's just such a beautiful game, such an awesome kind of a heritage sport, almost a heritage esport. Been around for so long. It's it influenced so much of the video game space, and really is one of the best RTS of all time, if not the best RTS of all time, especially for watching. Maybe not for playing. I mean, if you're really like, if you're breaking it down like that, the best RTS to play and the most enjoyable RTS to play, probably not this one, but as just a pure viewer sport, just one of the greatest games of all time.
Oh, absolutely. And the granddaddy of esports. I mean, we wouldn't have a competitive gaming scene without this coming around and showing people the way. Everything was kind of off the back of StarCraft, because Korea went through a bit of a recession and they wanted a cheap form of entertainment. And instead of something like football, like we have here in the UK, it was StarCraft that took the mantle. And there was 2 TV channels dedicated to it. So can you imagine that being like in a hotel room in Korea back in the day, and you're flipping through the channels and 2 of those channels is just nothing but non-stop StarCraft games? They take it pretty seriously.
What an interesting slice of history, and that history is continuing on here today with those pro players of old. Players like Speed have been around for a long time, since those channels were active, man. A lot of these guys were still playing, and they continue on that legacy. Dragoon running way deep in. He wanted to get the confirmation on the CC there, but took a lot of damage, and this will embolden Speed to push across the map with these early Marines and rally across a few Vultures to maybe get a couple of cheeky mines in the front, in the face of Ruin, right up on top of his natural, and then he can kind of spread out, start to throw down mines in other locations as well. Ruin gonna follow this up with 3-gate Goon and an observer behind this, so he will have a very safe build from this position, but he is under a little pressure right now before those gateways fully come online.
Right. I mean, I don't think Speed will kill him with this or anything. He's just applying pressure and guaranteeing being able to lay down mines at the third base location. But he's catching the tank! Oh no, the Marines are blocking the tank. He's going to have to just commit to fighting the Dragoons. And he do fall. 2 Vultures, though, slip in to the natural. There was no temporary pylon set up to block that. Someone like Bess would make the play of building a pylon temporarily. A little bit slow reactions from Ruin. Does take a bit of economic damage as a result. These Marines, though, currently just on attack move. Going to be cleaned up pretty easily by Ruin. The Vulture does get into the main base, gets a full scout off, and as well as additional probe kill. But he didn't lay down any mines. So I don't know about this, actually, saying. I mean, there's nothing blocking a third base attempt or even scouting a third base attempt from Ruin here. He's going to follow this up with a potential Vulture drop play. But after losing that many units this early on against 3 gateways over production, even though he lost some probes, Ruin has a chance to do a lot of damage to Speed if Speed makes any more missteps in this game.
Yeah, that was just pure catastrophe there. Speed allowing the Marines to block his tank as he was trying to retreat. That was not supposed to happen. And
right.
He tried to make the best out of it by, you know, pulling those vultures forward and just running in, trying to get some damage. Now back at home, barely holding on with a very tight timing, throwing down that bunker just in the nick of time, holding things back here. 5 Dragoons can do a lot of damage if you don't hold it properly, if he's able to gun down one of those tanks. But Ruin not fully committing to that, not fully diving in here. Just gonna back away for now and should be able to throw down his third base, albeit a little bit late here. 7 minutes has passed and he's gonna send out that probe now.
I mean, the bunker is one of the fastest buildings in the game, saying I think it's like 19 seconds or something. It's super quick. It's like a shield battery. So as long as you know when to build it, you can get that online just in the nick of time. It's one of the best things to delay building for that reason, because of how quick it does build. As long as you identify the threat ahead of schedule, you can more than easily get that bunker finished up. So speed avoiding disaster here. Pylon block does come down to stop this vulture being too annoying, but he's almost in range of these probes. He can actually shoot these probes on the very far right. He does get one of those kills, maybe even a second one. That's a pretty good compensation for not getting fully in with that vulture, being a little bit annoying here to Ruin. I mean, this is a very strange early game that we're seeing because of the slightly botched unit control. We'll see if Speed can get any follow-up damage done. He needs to really make this vulture drop work to feel comfortable in this game state, though.
It's going to be hard to get that thing, vulture drop in there, though. There's Dragoons down here, and there's that third base, so he'll have forewarning, even if he goes for the main. Ruin is going to be completely aware of this as it flies through, and so yeah, he sees it. Couple or one vulture going to be dropped out here. It dies immediately, and now the drop into the main should be countered pretty quickly, pretty reasonably by Ruin. Yeah, he just guns that down. No, the dropship actually escapes. Wow, sliding out on that exit vector. Kind of an angle there. Manages to get out some kills here on this vulture at the very end, but not quite as much as he was looking for, not quite as much as he was needing here to bring things back into parity.
No, I don't think so either, saying there is also a full scout for Ruin. He sees the 5 factory, he knows exactly what he's up against, and without that much damage done with this vulture harass, Speed gonna be up against it, to say the least. The supply's already seeming to indicate that he's only 10 supply ahead, Ruin, but honestly, like, that's a bit misleading. Like, usually you would expect the Terran player to be like 20 ahead, but I mean, the reality is that Ruin's kind of gotten away with a pretty crisply timed third base. The attack kind of was botched at the start, and because of the path here from Speed, he's going for 5 factory, so he should have a lot more unit production, which is why the supplies seem to indicate a much closer game. But the reality is that supplies don't mean everything in StarCraft, and actually, Speed's in a little bit of trouble here. It's going to be difficult for him to secure this third base safely, as well as get some further damage done with this future harassment. If Ruin is on top of things and has 2 Dragoons at each of his locations, this vulture drop won't do much. Haven't got quite a look in the natural expansion of Ruin to know how safe he's going to be against this. He's trying to distract him with vultures running to the third base. Well, the dropship's ready to dive into the natural, but a cannon is just finishing up, and he's leaving 2 Dragoons there.
Looks like he'll lose this starport. Can he throw down a science facility before that goes down?
Man, I don't even know.
It can be okay if he throws that down, but Dragoon's everywhere, man. Dragoon's covering everything. Ruin has a really good supply of Dragoons out on the map so far. He's shutting things down. There it is, science facility. He did manage to throw that down. And so he will be able to at least continue his upgrades while he takes this third base. Stretching out now with the 5 fact to try and take that. It's still a playable game state. He still has the dropship as well. That wasn't lost, so that's a point in his advantage for now. Still, it's going to be a tough game. He's going to have to really lock it down and wait for this +2 to come online. This gives Ruin quite a bit of time to maybe do a budget recall into the main, you know, slide in there, try to get some kills at that natural, or do some zealot bombs here. Let's see what he opts to do as he reaches out to take a fourth here, undoubtedly. Which side will he take that on? Okay, center left is going to be his first choice. I thought he would be more likely to go ahead and start locking down another main base, but that'll probably be coming up here soon.
Yeah, science facility might be the one saving grace for Speed in this game. Not slowing down that +2 weapons timing is going to really pay dividends against Ruin here, who's going to be getting his 4th base online. There are some vultures with this dropship going to try and poke away at these cannons that have yet to finish warping in. So there's even a tank in there that's going to easily get the kill on those. I'm not even sure that Ruin was able to cancel. So small victory there for Speed. He's waiting to do some big damage to a probe transfer with that siege tank as well, but seems like he's not going to yet be able to achieve that. Ruin's not going to transfer any probes up here anytime soon. He's going to try and get some Dragoons in position to box in that dropship from doing too much damage. Speed, though, with this Wraith out on the map before that starport went down, has some ability to limit the mobility of the shuttle, as well as provide vision for his tanks to shoot further. And eventually we'll start to leapfrog his tanks to the center of this board and the edge of the ring of this donut. And that's definitely giving him a lot of playability going forward into this mid to late game phase.
Yeah, this is a great method here for Speed. Just sitting back. This is kind of an older school way of playing Terran. Getting into that pretty quickly timed +2 upgrade and focusing on utilizing drops to just go around the map, try to slow down any bases that come up. And he managed to kill the probe that was headed to top left and shut that down. Coming in now with these shuttles, and that shuttle goes down very quickly. Great target fire here from Speed, and he actually gets rid of both of the Reavers. This is an excellent trade from him. He is really locking this down hard, and he will be getting that +2 online unhindered.
Yeah, I mean, the supplies look pretty good for him as well. I mean, when all said and done, this is... Oh, the probes are going down to the Arclight shotgunning of that siege tank as well. I mean, Speed is looking better and better. He will get this force shut down, but fighting back in this game, Ruin is responding by taking this Nexus in the top left pretty normal macro time. About 12 minutes he took this 4th. Now he's taking this 5th at around 14 minutes. I mean, it is technically standard timing, but you have to remember that Speed was playing a much more unit-centric style with that 5 factory into 3rd into 7 factory with a slightly delayed +2. So relatively speaking, this 5th base is actually kind of fast from Ruin when you consider the game state, which means that Speed has a bit of potential to come onto the map and start to apply pressure to the Protoss. He's doing a lot of scans right now, trying to identify exactly where the army is of Ruin, how he wants to tackle this. He's got most of his forces on the top of this ring of this donut, but Ruin is still going to try and shuffle past and see if he can get into this natural 3rd. Vultures are waiting at the natural 3rd of Ruin to run in now and see if they can find any probe damage. Hopefully there's some cannons there to buffer against that. Storm does come down and morph into an Archon. Does find some kills on those SCVs. That's another beautiful follow-up Storm onto those SCVs, crippling some of the economy of Speed at this natural 3rd. But I also don't think there was too much success in the Vultures down at the natural 3rd of Speed, which we didn't get a shot of. So I think, yeah, Ruin's in a pretty good position as long as he can slow down this push that's coming.
Well, Speed's got his upgrades online, and Ruin just threw away a lot of his splash damage. I'm not sure how many Templar he has to follow this up with. Might be throwing some of those down now as the tanks move forward and start to siege. This is a great opportunity to throw down those storms, but he's only able to hit a couple of the tanks in the front. And most of the siege tanks staying online here. He is going to be able to slide along this side here, get over towards that 4th base. Might be able to shut this down, actually. Ruin is kind of panicking right now, getting his shuttles together to try and come over here and deny this, but there's Goliaths ready. There's Vultures. They're going to be catching all the probes heading up towards the top right. This is really solid play from Speed, and this is bringing him into a great position now. The push is working out fantastically.
Yeah, Ruin's in a lot of trouble. I didn't think that Speed was going to get that execution order quite like that. But, I mean, really well done. He hasn't yet knocked out this Nexus, but that's a lot of damage to the economy. We got some speed shuttles sharking around, dropping some zealots, bombing those tanks, taking out some of the damage potential out of speed. But now speed rotating around to this northern hemisphere, putting pressure onto this base up here before the rally points can get established, and there's storms on the high ground. So speed is just like his namesake, just ramming it down and forcing the issue. Ruin will have to come to him and react to this. He cannot let this go uncontested. He has to either counterattack or meet this head on with some speed shuttles. Just like he's intercepting the rally point, trying to cut off reinforcements for the time being. 2 speed shuttles making their way downtown to try and reinforce this. There's some cannons to buy a teeny tiny bit of time, but I feel like he has to sacrifice this base and go for a counter, you know.
I don't know if there's a counterattack available. There is 180 supply, but there's quite a good setup back at home for speed. He's gonna try and dive in on top of this, clearing a lot of the mines with their initial zealots, dropping the storms here. Maybe he can take out this third base right now as speed is clearing out top left. Ruin getting on top of these tanks, killing off a lot of them, and getting the storms critically into these really strong positions where they can start to leverage the storm onto those groups of tanks that are coming up in support. Zealots getting right in on top of this, and that last storm, he's actually going to kill every single tank here at the end of the day. Could as well take out this CC.
No way. This is crazy, saying if he gets that CC, it's going to be absolute nightmare for speed to handle. He's actually knocking out this other base though. This 4th base for Ruin might be going down to these 3 siege tanks hit squad. That's a really big win for speed. It does kind of compensate losing the CC. It's still not a great position. The only thing going for speed is that Ruin was slow to build, and that's actually off location. That nexus is too far away. It should be 1 hex to the south. It's actually a little bit off center there. Ruin in a bit of a panic, not even placing his nexus in the correct position, unfortunately. I hope that doesn't come back to bite him, because he's actually in a pretty good position. He's 40 supply ahead. He's knocked out one of the 2 mining bases of the Terran player. The natural will be mined out and dried up in just a few seconds here for speed. So it will be back down to 1 mining base for him versus the 3 of the Protoss when that base in the bottom right comes online. But it is slightly misplaced. So, I mean, who knows? If this game drags on, that base being misplaced in the bottom right could really punish Ruin.
This is one of the funky things about StarCraft Broodwar. You can see the SCVs going all the way over to the 3rd base to mine long distance, returning the minerals to the main base, walking right past the natural CC. Oh my goodness. Taking the longest closer, right? possible path. Yeah, it's the closer one, technically, by air, but definitely not by ground. And that's just the way that they programmed it. And so Speed's really not getting much income from that base. It is going to come online here soon, though, and his upgrades are fully online now. He's going to have that +3 done, and will be trading much, much better. It's just Ruin is going to get in here and kill a bunch of SCVs. Now, this is not a very good defensive spot for Speed. He's banking on a full-on counter-attack going on, and Ruin gets in here immediately to start shutting down his economy. So Speed is in a bit of a desperate spot. He's just going to go for the attack. Bunch of Dragoons go down before the full engagement can happen. This is Ruin kind of falling apart right now. EMP goes down, gets rid of that Templar. The Storm is gone and not going to be a factor in this next fight. Ruin just going for a desperate counterattack for himself, heading directly over here towards this 12 o'clock. This is just going to be a kind of a base trade situation right now as Ruin tries to defend with Storm.
I mean, with this +3 weapon, Speed is kind of throwing all of his eggs into one basket and trying to make an omelet, but there might be egg on his face because this counterattack looks like it might be more successful. And this is the last bastion of hope for Ruin. Sorry, for Speed. I don't know if this is going to pan out for Speed at all. He's actually really dangerously low on supply, as well as getting the CC taken out. He's only just now starting to knock out the workers. He's actually taking a long time to kill this base in the bottom right as well, because he's distracted with the defense here. And look at how many Templars there are. Unless he gets an EMP off on those, that's going to be an absolute thorn in his side. So much Psionic Storm splash potential to contend with. I mean, it's such a bizarre game we're seeing right now, saying. I mean, I did say at the start of of the cast. Like, these guys are not that well suited for this matchup. It is their weakest matchup on both sides of the board, so we definitely would be having some potential fireworks here in the final decider match, and it seems like that has come to fruition. Saying sometimes when you're a little bit off center, crazy things can happen.
Well, there's that little oh my god. Okay, here, big attack going through right now. Gonna go ahead and fight these tanks in the middle. Great storm there, a great follow-up storm as well. Gonna kill off a couple more tanks. Still, Speed will hold strong here. Looks like he's gonna try and float his CC out from the natural over to the center right. I think he has both CCs floating. Am I seeing this right? No, one of them is long distance mining. The main base is still there. Kind of hilarious to see him float the natural out and keep mining in the natural long distance, but that's what we're doing right now. And he's gonna try and put down this CC here, center right, take over that position. I'm surprised he doesn't just try to take the middle right now. It seems way more common for Terran players to try and take that. Ruin can easily send a shuttle around the outside and go ahead and hit that center right, and I think we're just about to see that now.
Yeah, I think he would be spreading himself too thin to take the center of the board is the problem. He's on 82 supply. Here comes that shuttle. Mine does connect on one of those SCVs, but it does, on its high times, but it doesn't matter because the bulk of those SCVs falling to that Sonic Storm regardless. I mean, Speed is in so much trouble. He has maybe a dozen SCVs left on the map. That is not ideal, to say the least. That means he's got, you know, a maximum of like 500 to 600 minerals per minute, and that's only once all of the SCVs get to that mining base, whereas Ruin's just set up his fourth again in the top left natural third location, and we'll be enjoying a bit of a comfortable lead in both supply and economic potential right now due to how many SCVs that have been eliminated. Most of the supply you see is just pure units from Speed. So relatively speaking, has a fighting chance on the army, but there's so much splash damage potential from Ruin. I don't know if there's enough meat on the bone for Speed to make an entree out of it.
Gonna go ahead and throw down a EMP here, or maybe go ahead and drop a D matrix on one of these tanks. Ruin just busting through this natural. There's really not a lot here to kill. Almost no SCVs. Some of them long distance mining still. There's the MP on a big clump of Dragoons. Of course, gets that Templar as well. A lot of Templar here. Oh, the storms of these tanks coming up from the south are going to be absolutely devastating, and Speed pushed all the way back into his main. I don't think he can hold the center right while defending this. He's got to bring everything over here to defend that. I just heard another storm go down on that low ground. I think that every tank down there just went down. So this is about all she wrote. Speed at 50 supply is most likely going to be going out here. I am shocked to see Speed go down because I just think he's such a great player, and it's a little bit sad to see him go out like this, but Ruin has played a great game here. Counterattacks have been so strong, and the Templar storming everything over and over and over again is just too much for Speed to handle.
He really has, Saiyan. I couldn't say that better myself. I mean, Speed really does need to figure out this matchup if he wants to be a strong contender in the scene. This is the one thing that's really holding him back. He can pull apart players in Terran versus Terran with his task switching. He's very adept at what he does in Terran versus Zerg, but when it comes to Terran versus Protoss, he really does struggle. And even though this is Ruin's worst matchup as well, Ruin always getting the better end of the stick in these trades, it seems. Last hope, Hail Mary, defensive matrix, trying to hold the line, but the side blades of those Zealots will be more than enough to chew through that Terra metal. Even Sonic Storms coming down on top of the SCV line, even the vessels now being targeted. There's just so much storm available to Ruin. He will break through, force a GG out of Speed, and it will be Ruin joining Hero in that round of 16.
Ooh, I hate to see it. I hate to see it, Xun, but great game by Ruin. GG, man. Ruin making his way through into the round of 16. Joined by Hero. Hero, absolutely the favorite in this group, making it through first, but Ruin is a little bit of an upset, I have to feel.
No, I completely agree. I mean, this is a StarCraft 2 guy. You know, he was pretty good in StarCraft 2. I think he's way more successful than Paralyze was in StarCraft 2. It has to be said. He joined the military, did his due, came out and decided, hey, you know what? StarCraft 1's kind of hot right now. I'm going to become a StarCraft 1 streamer. And it's worked out well for him. I mean, you can't really deny it. He's got a few fans, and now he's competing and taking games down in the SCSL, and he's breaking through to the round of 16. You've kind of got to hand it to the guy. He's a StarCraft 2 gamer that's making it happen in StarCraft 1. I mean, fair play to him.
It's awesome to have more and more StarCraft 2 players coming back. Sue is another notable addition. It's made it back into StarCraft 1 recently, but there's a lot more that comes to mind. MC is a big one as well. Of course, Solkey was from that StarCraft 2 scene also. I mean, he did start out in Broodwar, though, and switched over to StarCraft 2. Eventually did come back to the greatest game of all time. Guys, thank you so much for watching the SCSL Season 4 Round of 32 Group F. It's been a blast, but we gotta head out, guys. This is one of the longest casts, I think, probably of the whole season. 3 hours and 50 minutes, something close to that. So hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.